Hello,
I
everyone.
figured out my dog's.
Welcome to this week of the Professional Infinite Stream. Episode 11. It's going to be great. I didn't tell anybody we were going live. I waited for Charlie to say something and then clicked live.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I wanted you to say something either incriminating or funny, and you did neither, so I feel let down.
Well, you had a lot of opportunities to catch me saying something incriminating or funny, and missed every single
Certainly
one
the
of them.
first half of that sentence is true. How's everyone else doing?
Fine.
Great. It's going to be one of those sessions where everybody's kind of garbage. You know what I forgot to do?
This is part 1 of 3 of D&D for me today, okay?
That's a lot. That's an enormous amount of D&D.
Yeah. Normally it's only 2, but today it's 3.
Done that kind of thing before.
Give me one
Then
second.
I
The other
admitted it
2
to
I've
people
run.
that don't play D&D, and that was a mistake.
I had a friend who was trying to DM for the first time, and he decided that a one-shot meant everything had to be done in one entire session. Not just like a one-off little thing, and played D&D for about, 10 hours straight. That was fun.
Ah!
Yep.
Whoa!
Why didn't you stop your friend?
Yeah, I wish I had a good answer for that.
I'm just an entire party sat at a table with a baby GM.
Well, one was his wife. One player was his wife. Another player was relying on him for transportation, and the other one was a roommate. So.
I guess.
Well, what else is anyone gonna do?
The only group I've ever been a part of that has done I've done an in-person 24 hours of playing over 3 days or something. It probably ended up being more than that, but a lot of game playing. But the only group that I've ever been a part of that was like, hey, it's a session and it's going to go for 10 hours. I was like, at the 4.5 hour mark, I was like, I schedule 4.5 hours for this. I can't do more because my brain will shut off. It was before I had GM'd a lot and before I had played a lot. And I was like, I have to go. I can't keep playing. It just is not working for me anymore in terms of my brain. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to wrap it up soon. And 5 hours later, I came back to my computer and they were still playing. And I had Roll20 open and I could see them still making rolls. And I was like, I don't like that this happened and it feels like I got bullied. But I did offer, say I wanted to leave. Anyway.
Oh.
The universe.
Oh yeah, we're live.
Is a vast place. I wasn't going to start it that way, but I liked the cadence of the drama of the universe is a vast place. The universe is a vast place, filled with many planets, space stations, moons, asteroid belts, and all other manner of intergalactic anomalies. Our camera opens on one such planet. The sky cracks with light. It's purple hues as the light reflects the ground beneath. Lightning ripples across the sky, sideways, but occasionally forking downwards towards the crystalline landscape. There is nothing on this planet that is not made of a kind of indigo-ish tinted, but leaning towards blue, crystal. And for the audience, we get down at the bottom, in a little stylized font, similar probably to the font that I choose to use for all of the art for this game. And it says, Wreath. And we see the landscape kind of pull away from the camera as the camera darts through and it turns to a blur. We see a few large spires, stalagmites of crystal that arc up impossibly high into the atmosphere. This planet, from a distance, looks almost like a ball from a flail or a morning star with giant spikes pulled out of the land itself. There are no people on the surface that this camera picks up. There are no structures. And it flies quickly through the across the crystal planes until it finds a crack in the crystal, a chasm that leads down into a deep darkness, and it spirals down dark until there's nothing, and then at the very base of this chasm, the flare of light and sound and laughter and the clanging of people, a civilization that even down here the walls are still purple crystal, that nothing could grow on this planet. But as we look at the people, they are a happy people. They move slowly. The lights from what seems to be a really basic electrical, like, street lighting system kind of collides and then refracts through their bodies, as most of them are different shades of blue crystal as they walk around. One of them's pushing a cart that's filled with metal for some kind of building project. Another is selling food on the side of the road, but the food is organic in a way that is unusual, and the clients all have flesh and look humanoid. We move through and we see some families sitting down. They'll be sitting at a table. It seems like it might be dinner time, and those that are young enough to still have their flesh are eating, and those that have progressed to the second stage of Wreathen life are talking. They speak a little bit slower, probably because it is the nature of their people as they age to become much slower, but in general the conversation lilts in their own language. There's no translation of these conversations as the camera pulls through. It continues past a giant round elevator system that seems to be the way that they would egress out onto the surface above if they ever needed to, until it finally lands almost as if a bird perching on a windowsill on a second-story house. The camera looks into this bedroom. The bedroom is, for all intents and purposes, childish. It has posters on the wall. There's a poster of a giant-looking woman in a, I think, purple wrestling outfit, like raising a fist up. There's a couple of stuffed toys kind of strewn around the room. They're huge. They're like the size of a normal person. They're strewn about the room, and sitting in the bed looking out the window at this refracting light, where everything is like a laser show, is a small Wreathen child. Long black hair, no dreadlocks, no braids, but just long and like pooling in the bed behind them. Their face pale, almost pallid, and they have a couple of droplets of sweat beading on their brow as they kind of wipe it away with the towel that's nearby. They sigh as they look out the window at the light show that so few people ever really get to see. Wreath is not a tourist location because it's not really in an area of space that people travel to very often. Geologists came here once a long time ago and realized that everything is the same rock. And while some find that interesting, most find that undesirable in a study location. Alright. I'm going to continue monologuing through the skepticism. This place has been around for centuries upon centuries, millennia. People have finished their study of Wreathen crystals. They are an uninteresting rock now. This child sits, looking almost as if waiting for something, and time passes. And the camera stays, but the time that's passing is not minutes, nor is it hours, but days and weeks and months, and we see the child never leaving this room. They are brought food, they are brought books to read, their hair grows longer and longer until it's nearly to the back of their knees. They do not grow taller over this time. Until one day, the time lapse slows, and a knock is heard on the door. the child turns their head slowly, almost in the way that older Rethans turn their heads. And the door opens, and a familiar figure to us as players and GM and to the audience, though much younger, steps through in a long brownish beige trench coat, dreadlocked hair, no signs of the crystallization that is typical of Rethans. Alejandri steps across the room, kneels beside the bed, takes off his, I was going to say undresses his duffel bag, but that's not really the right word, takes off his duffel bag, and the camera speeds up again as we time-lapse through, not minutes and not hours, but days as Alejandri sits with what I think we as an audience learn is his younger sister, and just pulls out trinkets that he's picked up and tells long stories that will go for an hour and a half about this bracelet that he found somewhere, about this statue that he picked up from somewhere, about this photo of him with a couple of lavender-skinned people who he married at some stage, and he tells the elaborate story about their wedding ceremony. But the camera slows back down as he leaves, and he steps out, the duffel bag now empty. And as he steps out, we hear, in his familiar voice for the first time, him speak to a very dark blue crystal woman. You can tell by predominantly the figure of Rethans are very statuesque, particularly when crystals. And he says, so there's no change? She's never going to be able to walk more than a few feet? And crystallized Rethans are not great at showing emotion because expression is like an instantaneous thing a lot of the time, and their faces move like mountains. But there is a deep look of deep sadness etched upon the crystal face of Alejandri's mother, as she reaches slowly out and puts a hand across Alejandri's chest, sort of on his shoulder, but mostly palm to chest, and she says, no, but also she will never harden, and she will never become what we are. I do not know if that is a mercy to someone that could not sustain that transformation. And Alejandri nods, and there's a moment of acceptance on his face as he edges towards that time that he no longer shares childhood with her and is just another adult that shows what she can never be. And the camera zooms closer, and we see an unfamiliar expression on Alejandri's face of deep and profound sadness that he really never shows people. And as we watch Alejandri's eyes close momentarily as he comes to terms with it, the camera also fades to black. And in this blackness we hear sounds of laser fire and bullet fire, metal on metal, the sound of shouting in all of these different languages and all of these universal translators pinging back different answers. And Alejandri, as the camera rolls back around, is now a little bit closer in age, a lot closer in age to how we all knew him before last session. He has a sword in each hand, watching as a pink-haired bandit king directs her troops around the battlefield. He sees one of his comrades duck off into an alley where he had heard screaming from earlier. He follows the comrade, finds them menacing an unprotected child, and as always the camera pans to Alejandri, and we have this moment of him making what everybody else that has ever known him would think is a bad decision, as he draws both of his swords and strikes down his own maybe friend, but maybe just peer and co-worker. the camera cuts again to Alejandri in Bujan's office. She's admonishing him for murdering one of her crew. But at the same time, she says to him, "You know, Alejandri, I have earned the right to do whatever I like, and I take it, as you know, at all times. But my crew do not earn that. They are not the Bandit King. They are just peons beneath me. And you at least had the courage to do something to stop them. So I'm faced with the decision of, do I kill you for killing a crew member of mine, as I would any other person? Or do I reward you for making a decision that was ultimately heroic and brave and etc., but maybe you could keep the rest of the crew in line while I am allowed to do as I wish?" And there is a look of fear on his face as the camera pans, and then it pans back to her and she's holding a coin in her hand. Coins are rare, but she's holding a coin and she says, "I always like when I let fate decide these kind of things." And she pulls out a pistol, holds it aimed at his head, and flips the coin. And as the camera watches the coin sparkle, a flash of that same purple crystal that we saw on Rethan hits it and directs into the camera. And as it comes out of that, we see your ship. And Alejandri draping a blanket over a sleeping Valis, who is finally passed out from his exhaustion on the way to the academy. You see him cleaning the few weapons that are in the armory. We see him about to walk into the bridge and notice Kid being there and deciding to not do that because that would be irritating to Kid. We see him also draping a blanket over Nyx, who has just fallen asleep face first into a torn apart robot. Talking to 3FL at every single scheduled health inspection that he has. Like every checkup, he is there. Talking to Lucira about really anything to try and make the monotony of ship life easier. And then as we see him go to bed, look through his duffel bag filled with another 5 or so years worth of trinkets to show. There's a hard cut to him hitting the ground, and we see his bones in a CSI style X-ray shatter into millions and millions of fragments. All on his left side, that shattered crystal side, all of his bones fragment to the surface of his skin in the moment that the crystal starts. And it freezes in time that pain of that breaking of those bones. And we see that moment in agonizing slow motion. And we see him bounce in agonizing slow motion, and then we see him wreathed in white and held up in the way that people across all civilizations in their histories that have been spiritual leaders have been wreathed and shown in tapestries. And we follow that whiteness all the way back to that void in Nyx's head, where last session we heard Nyx in the moment vocalize out loud. Now we hear Nyx talking in that snap, that split second, to the nanites. You have all the time in the world in this void to try and convince them to actually help you. And they are essentially begging for you to let yourself use them the way that you always could.
Nyx, in that moment, her previous conception of herself sitting there at the computer, a workstation that she would have loved to enjoy, and she finds herself just pushing away the interfaces that she uses to work with the computer system. Just finds herself reflexively shoving off the key stations. A sort of digital pen goes flying, And she addresses open space and just says sharply, fine, you can have my body, do whatever it takes, just help him.
The nanites swarm around you, and suddenly it's as if you're in a sea engulfed by a school of fish. And you know that they don't have the capacity to help him on their own. Like, ultimately they use your energy and they don't have unlimited access to it. And you know through the link that you share with them that it has to be you. You can't delegate this to them. You have to be the one that uses your power to reach out and to save Alejandro.
And even in that instant, that just seems to last forever, Nyx's face just sort of floods a deep violet, and her eyes close, and she's again, but I don't. And then as soon as she says that out loud, she shakes her head sharply, looks down at her arm, and as she's staring at her arm, her fists are just clenching reflexively, and this gray scarring is just more visible, kind of almost as though it's shimmering through the jumpsuit that she habitually wears over it, arcs traveling through it. And then she looks back at her workstation, and instead of seeing her full workstation, the model that she would have always wanted to be on, she sees a series of panels. The words warning, hazard. And she looks past that into the space where Alejandro is hurtling towards the pavement again and slams her hand forward.
We see in a freeze frame from the car that white flare and become almost blinding until we are back with Alejandro, the crystal slowly forming over his broken body. We go momentarily into Alejandro's head, and we see him thinking of the moments that mattered the most to him, the moments we just saw as the audience. His last time seeing his sister. The moment that, of all the times he thought of where he was about to die, the one that was the truest. He feels like he's never been closer than 50-50 to die. And then finally it ends, that thought, with him just thinking of his family, but his family as if they were all younger and not Crystal. A state that they have never been all together. And then, in the shortest time jump in Infinite history, we jump forward about 10 minutes to you all in the car. Alejandro's spear hanging out the window. Nyx in their own head. She's walking and seeing that fire and heat and tiny speck of psionic energy in the distance. And we come to 3FL in not a void. I suspect that the area in which you are meeting Fidget for the first time is a lush, verdant, colourful garden, but you can describe it for me as you like.
3FL-A2's headspace, I think, is a constantly evolving and shifting landscape. If you were to snapshot it in this second, there's when you're going out into the woods, there's this space where you're starting to transition from everything's very light, and it's less that you're in the woods and it's more that you're like surrounded by like a couple of trees and you can really see like golden like light coming everywhere. And then there's a spot where everything sort of starts to get like darker and thicker as you're heading like deeper into the woods, and like we're seated like right in that in between spot.
In the transition between something that has given itself entirely to nature and what is beyond. I said that weirdly, but I meant the other direction. So yeah, this purple form, it's amorphous. It looks initially like the vine itself, but now it's kind of flitting through. It's using basically your memories to take on form here, so it flits through a lot of humanoids, but then a lot of plants. You'll see it like in a purple pot, and just be a plant for a split second. There's times that it's an animal that is kind of bounding around. It's always moving. Even when it's in the pot is like hopping around. When it's a human, it's like running. It will turn into a child for a moment, and it will be like skipping along. It turns into Nyx for a moment, and it's just arms flailing, because that's how Fidget sees Nyx, through a very thin lens of like auras. It says, "I'm so glad you made it."
Yes, this is... How are we doing this?
I don't know.
That's incredible. I know who I think of you as, but who are you?
I don't know. You call me Fidget, so Fidget is fine.
Yes. Is that okay? Okay, that is good for now. Yes. How are you liking it here?
It's fine. I mean, I like my head more than this place, but I can't talk to you in my head.
Is it so you're in my head, not the other way around? Maybe there's a way that we could better meet in the middle?
I can't speak in the real world.
But if you're here, then how do I get to your there?
My there is real small and like not very accommodating, but we can try that. I just thought this was easier. You have like a bigger headspace than me. All I think about is like, I have a real name, it just doesn't translate into a thing. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
They touch you, and it's the sound of decay and destruction of all things.
Well, how did you come to that as your sense of self?
That was my name when, like, I was part of a bigger thing that had that name. And now I'm a smaller thing, but that's still my name, because I'm still part of that.
Destruction of all things is interesting. I feel like a lot of people, and not people, circling around in my sphere right now see themselves as the destruction of all things.
Well, no, because you know about the plant that I am, because I like to eat stuff, and it doesn't really matter as long as I'm getting the energy, but that tends to be on a bigger scale destructive. But I'm not destructive.
Well, no, and I think even your larger system that you were a part of existed naturally and in balance with the ecosystem that it was a part of.
I don't think it did.
And that's not...
I remember being that thing, and we just don't like other things. But I like other things.
Fascinating. There's nothing wrong with needing energy, but I see that that's not a useful line of conversation in getting to know you right now.
Do you think I should change my name?
Pardon?
Do you think I should change my name?
Do I think you should change your name? Well, what do you feel more like?
What about this? And it touches you, and it's the sound of everything in the universe except for one thing being destroyed?
What's the one thing you don't think is going to be destroyed?
Oh, I don't know. It's like we portray things through sound and vibrations. I don't know what that means through the lens of whatever you are. I just know that as a plant, we used to eat stuff, and I want to eat stuff less now.
Through the lens that I view things, it seems very grandiose. And I love that that's how you think of yourself.
Well, I'm different, though. But, yeah, I guess so. Maybe I am pretty great.
You're wonderful.
That's true. I'll stick with the first name.
Okay.
And Fidget, because that's easier to say.
Certainly for me, I can't vibrate in the same way that people with not traditional humanoid sensory organs can.
I feel like maybe you could. It's pretty easy, and it just, like, turns into a human that's just doing, like, a little vibrate. It's, like, wiggling. Really, it's not capturing at all what that would be for a plant.
3FL-A2 still mimics the motion.
No, that's bad. You're saying bad words.
3FL-A2 modifies the little dance that they're doing.
That's
It's good humor, not quite in sincerity.
a bit better. Anyway, this is kind of hard work. Like, do you feel it? Are you tired from this? And as you think about it, you are tired from using your psionic energy this way.
3FL-A2 like was starting to say, no, I think you might be doing all the heavy lifting here, but like you know, when you're carrying grocery bags, you don't quite realize that like you have the weight of them like until you put them into the backseat of your car, or like you sit them down to unlock the door. Very similar to that.
What's your passive understanding in something gross? Right? Like super high.
I have a +10.
And it's reliable, so 21.
Yep.
You can roll an understanding check, but I will give you the big bulk of this for free. But you might get something extra. Okay.
28.
So, absolutely. You know categorically that this plant is, if anything, piggybacking entirely off your energy. This nature of plant does not take its own energy use its own energy for anything. And since it's changed, it is far more likely to be draining your psionics as well as your own use of it. But on top of that, there's a real... I think you probably wouldn't know this already, but there's a real lack of permanence to anything that it is doing, and even like the feel of it touching you. You've had this vine touch you before, and it drains energy. It doesn't do that here. It's very much like projecting itself to yourself in a way that is fascinating, and it reminds you of, I think, maybe one of the books that you read that AI Teresa acquired for you, which were basically just psionics for dummies, because that's really all that anybody was willing to give to Teresa when she asked. But there's very little permanence, and as your focus is being drawn to sound of decay and destruction, you actually notice that the world around you, which was very solid when you were first arriving here, is now fuzzy, and you feel the atmosphere of like that in-between transition of like nature to civilization, but you can't see it anymore, as your psionic headspace is kind of starting to collapse in on itself. I think with your understanding roll, you know that when this ends, it will be just that you are tired of using this particular muscle for... you're a doctor along with a lot of other things, but like muscle is a good way to think of it, as it's something you don't use very often, so you don't have a lot of grunt to it. Fidget now kind of coiling back into a snake that is the vine that Fidget is, with a little bit more permanence since it's not flitting through different forms. I think this time is coming to an end, and it like looks around with sightless eyes. But now that we have made the connection, it will be easier. Maybe.
Yes, I look forward to doing this again. Before we or I at least take a bit of a break, I would love to get your thoughts on something.
Sure.
If someone was to ask you what you need, what would you say to that?
When I was big, I just needed to consume energy. And when I was small, I just needed to consume less energy. And now that I am what that big, giant tentacle thing turned me into, I just need to consume different energy. But, I'm pretty happy. Like, just wandering around, draining a reasonable percentage of your battery, and being happy.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I like being the small version of me better than being part of the big version.
Is that related to individualism?
I don't know.
Is that something a can feel?
Maybe. All of those words you said, and you kind of feel that they're fading away and that you are imparting some of your natural intelligence to this vine, and maybe in their headspace they would not be quite so lucid. Like you're translating their feelings as well as into words. Maybe all the words you just said were hard to understand. I am part of a big thing, but also not part of a big thing. And I am fidget, but also, and it reaches out and touches you and presents you with the sound of decay and destruction. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to answer that better.
Don't think you should be able to answer it better ever.
Okay. It kind of does a wave at you as it fades and it like disintegrates up to like the waving tentacle. And then it just blips out. And you feel like you could stay in this void space for a little bit longer, but you are absolutely unaware of anything that's happening in the real world while you're here.
I think 3FL-A2 will take some extra time just mentally sitting crisscross applesauce in their own headspace for a bit, because I think they have some reflection that they need to do without the input of everything else. But I'm going to hold on to what that reflection is for a later time.
All right. The camera pulls out of your headspace through like a very contorted and morphed kind of technical mishmash of cables and steel and different metals through a flesh layer and then up into the sky out of the car entirely. And it zooms across this landscape on Latlas, the yellow landscape dotted by structures and road and things like that, before it arrives at what, if not for a small, stylized word down the bottom, none of us would know, is the pirate fortress on Lidlas. It cuts down through the ceiling, pushing down deep into the underbelly of this fortress. The fortress is maybe 3 stories tall on the surface and then another 3 below. We see a familiar face, kind of just standing in the middle of the hallway next to a door, as Valis is on guard duty in a pirate fortress. This is largely how he's been spending his days. But at this moment, from the corridor towards the entrance, a sound begins to echo of boots. Nobody comes down here, and we see as the camera kind of pans to the corridor that this is the it's probably called the prison block because this used to be something for that, but this is the floor in which the pirates keep those who are less desirable, but still they want to keep alive to learn things from. It's a torture area, interrogation, things like that. And we see two big pirates. They're wearing very dramatic looking, kind of military-esque garb, similar to Lucira, but like taken to the most dramatic degree. Like if this was everybody's in their dress uniform version of their clothes, and it's just their normal clothes, Valis is in a very flashy kind of suit. And these two big burly men are holding over their shoulders so that the person cannot touch the floor with their feet, an arm draped on either shoulder, a woman dressed entirely in white. Her boots are black, but her pants and shirt are white, covered a little bit in blood. It's hard to tell whose blood that is. There aren't any visible wounds on her. She has a coat that is hanging off her back, seemingly by force of will more than anything else, and it leads up to a very angular face, a very pretty face, and then a white shock of hair. That white hair is kind of at best shoulder length, but she's dragged, carried, lifted past Valis. And I would have made Valis make a perception check, but since Valis is not here, I'll just say he makes it as he's watching. And the seemingly unconscious woman lifts, like a breath puffs her hair out of her face, and just one of her eyes is watching everything, and it makes eye contact with him. And then she says a word that we don't hear. Oh, some words that we don't hear, probably. She talks a lot. Before the boots continue and just pull her further along. They're now like pulling her much more forcefully, pulling her arms kind of as far apart till we hear like slight popping of the sockets of her arms. But we're back in the car. Two of you are unavailable. In your own psionic headspace, unavailable. Alejandri is tapping away on the side of the door. Lucira, you're driving, and Kid, you're staring daggers into the back of Lucira's seat.
Yep.
You're about 40 minutes away from the place, Lucira.
I forgot we ended on such tension last time. Lucira's white knuckle gripped is gripping the steering wheel. Is it still a steering wheel like a usual car?
Yeah, you could get it
Just
with the
hover
steering
car?
wheel. You could get it with if you're more comfortable with a joystick, you could get it with a joystick, like something like that. But yeah, steering wheel makes sense, I guess.
This is a N64 controller.
Yeah, it's a Nintendo 64 controller.
Does that make sense? Because I know how to drive like that. She feels Kidren kicking the back of her seat and is just taking it because she knows while this is something she needed to go do, she also almost just killed everybody. And she hasn't been in this kind of a situation in a while.
Time stretches infinitely in this tension that two of you can't feel, but the other three in the car are like 100% sitting in. Kid, do you have an end frame for when this tension would end? Would it be 40 minutes when you arrive at the destination, or do you have an amount of time you are willing to sit in this before you say something?
If Lucira, it's making, like, I'm assuming there's probably like a rear view mirror.
Yeah.
Right.
She's
probably,
looking back every couple of minutes.
Yep. One of the times Lucira looks back, looks into the rear view mirror. Kid is just staring back.
All right. I'm going to need you to make a perception check, please, Lucira.
Okay. So
I like the idea that you're doing that thing where you are legally required to check, and you're not actually checking. Yep.
Again, same as last game, my first roll is a natural 1.
You
For a 0.
It feels like you made eye contact, kid. But you also see that Lucira is not looking at this thing at all. But if a couple of minutes have passed, Alejandria is not so patient as Kid's brooding. And the drumming stops on the side of the car, and he kind of turns. You see, like, Kid, you notice it, that he tries to move his head quickly, and there's a bit where it, like, jerks and then stops, like the energy has expended way earlier in the head turn. And he just turns, like, most of his body quite slowly and says, typically, it's weird. Typically, if I'm going to die, I'm getting paid for it, and I did just nearly die, and you have been lying for, like, 3 days. So you could tell me at least what's going on. Kid's probably not listening. He's listened to music all the time.
This is the first time, Kidren, you've probably seen, like, Lucira usually keeps her, like, she usually stays pretty cool. This is the first time you've seen her actually, like, kind of shaken. And it comes out in her voice and in her mannerisms. I'm sorry that I have been lying to you all. I'm sorry I almost just got you killed. I did not expect you to fly off the roof. But I'm glad you're not dead. We will talk with Nyx about whatever that was that saved you. That's,
Maybe that was more interesting to use this dramatic moment for. I'll continue.
Yeah, I have been lying to you all, but not for any malicious intent. I have not lied. It's mostly that I simply have not been wholly truthful. When I was finishing my time on the Tempesta, I chose a route with the intent of making things better in the universe for everyone. I decided to embark upon training of a subversive nature to see if that would help in my personal goals that could extend galaxy-wide. As part of that, this call popped up for me. And as a member of the... What is it called, Jack?
I don't keep all these names off the top of my head. Why do I not remember that? I can't help you. Because I have completely forgotten what this thing's called.
I want to say...
Is it called the Night Guard? Is that what I called it?
Oh, God, I don't remember. It's going to be too far back in our message history, too, I'm sure.
That's alright.
It's fine.
You give the correct name.
It's fine.
For that.
Look,
We'll just do it later.
Lucira's mouth moves, says the name, but as soon as her mouth opens,
fix it
the
in
car
post.
jolts for a second.
Yeah, we'll fix it. It's fine. We can edit this out, right?
Yeah. That's pretty bad that we both don't remember. It's a long time ago.
Both don't remember a very important title that Lucira holds. I am an agent for the Empire.
Basically, for the players, Kid, you know this. The other two are asleep, so unlucky. Basically, Kid, the Imperial Blank agents are basically the spies for the Empire. And they are tasked with going around and a lot of the time stopping corporations doing things that are shifty, but also a lot of the time stopping dissidents against the Empire, people that are committing crimes that are trying to do it in the background. Imperial Agent is what they are typically called. They don't have a. They do have a name beyond that, but you can make an Imperial role if you'd like to know that. And then you only get it if I find it before you finish.
My backstory document only has Outer Rings Agent, which isn't helpful.
Nope. So most people would call you an Imperial Agent. Would you like to make an Imperial role, kid?
Sure. Would this be like intelligence?
It can be whatever you like. It just depends on the nature of your understanding of it.
Okay, I'll make intelligence. $15.
All right. I didn't find it. I'm gonna call it the Imperial Night Guard because I think that's what I did.
Sounds
It's
right.
some form of that kind of nonsense. But the Imperial Night Guard is essentially the spy network that reports directly to the Emperor himself. There are other information networks that are more like. This is the difference between the CIA, which is supposedly like an organization that people know about, versus like MI6, which is people are meant to know about, that kind of thing, where it's like the hidden intelligence network. It is rare, which is to say, with your 15, you've never heard, you would still think this is a rumor. You've never heard of somebody ever being like, hey, I'm this thing. Because it's so secretive. And Alejandro is like, so like, for the Empire, which is largely good, a person that
Yes.
is a spy for them?
Yes, I work primarily in the Outer Rings to help promote safety of the Empire's peoples in areas that don't have as much oversight as they should to improve lifestyles and quality of life.
See Alejandro processing. It's easy to see because his face does the processing expression very slowly.
But at any rate, we landed on this planet, and as we were driving, or as we camped last night, my smart slab picked up the tone of someone in distress, and that is not a general distress call. That is a very specific distress call for my order, and as my training requires, I am, after I had decoded it, it was required of me to immediately attend to that person in distress. I do not know what we will find, however, because it has been some hours at this point, but I do know that something is terribly, terribly wrong. I don't know why we have somebody on this planet, but we do, and we need to help them. I'm sorry for not telling you all sooner.
So just to track from the back seat.
Alejandro's head turns real slow.
You did have an idea that there would be some type of danger when we came out here, right?
Can you repeat that? Sorry. I heard it and then it just went right out my ear.
Kidren said, just to keep track, you did know that there would be some type of danger when we came out here, right?
Correct. I didn't expect bikers. I expected a quickly evolving situation at the destination, of which I would have briefed you as we got closer.
So I'll be honest, I don't really care what your title is, necessarily. At least not right now. But I am pretty sure you have another one, which is head of communication, at least for whatever this is. And just kind of vaguely gestures to everyone in the car. So next time, try doing that.
You just see her eyebrow, like one eyebrow just kind of twitch a little bit in the mirror.
Kid,
I'll do my
100%
best.
aware of it. Alejandro does not notice. Alejandro says, "Alright, kid, is Nyx like asleep?"
Is Nyx asleep, or is Nyx like their eyes roll back and it's like her head or something?
We're still only like what 10 minutes into this drive.
Yeah, you're still on your psychic journey forward.
Yeah, so Nyx is just like kind of still clutching reflexively, because, well, chamomile at that point for Nyx, right? Mentally, chamomile had wrapped Nyx up, in the blankets, and so like Nyx is still clutching at chamomile's like arm, and staring off into space with her eyes just glazed, that translucent sort of white.
Alright, so I understand that it would be hypocritical of me to be upset at someone leading a double life, but I am, and we'll address it later. Can you two pretend that I didn't do that dramatic thing to get the information out of Lucira for when Nyx wakes up?
Sure. Whatever you want, Alejandro.
He
Glad you're alive.
He puts a hand up, and then the thumb like slowly goes up. It's like, I could have done that faster, but for effect. I'm old now, amongst my people.
You did look really cool doing all that. I'm just glad you're not dead.
I also didn't plan to fly off a roof. Anyway.
What's going on in the backseat, kid?
Oh yeah, kid, you look at the other two and they're both like in similar catatonic states. It looks actually like 3FL has just been turned off.
Oh,
As I'm scanning the horizon for any other fucking approaching threats that aren't towards the destination.
Nyx looks like they're in space, quite literally, but still here.
Okay.
And 3FL looks like they're shut off.
That's not good. Do you want me to pull over, or should I keep going and we'll see if they check out of it in the next 5 minutes?
Do you know what a brake check is?
Yes. You see, like Lucira says that shakily, but there's the slightest hint of a smile appears on her face, having had some of that tension released just a little bit, and so she will do the lightest of brake taps, just kind of jolt everybody in the car.
Kid will kick the back of Lucira's seat to make it worse.
All right, I'm gonna need, even though it was light, kid, you don't have to make one. Lucira, you don't have to make one. Alejandro is not really good at his body yet, so he will be making an escape check. And the two of you, who I assume buckled your seatbelts.
I'm assuming that chamomile buckled Nyx's seatbelt.
Well, you had just climbed over an entire thing, and then kicked a door open, and then did some stuff. But, all right.
But we got out, and when we got back
both of you can just make me fortitude checks for if you're going to wake up.
I'll be making that at disadvantage because Nyx is not present at the moment.
Wait, you've said 2 different checks. You said fortitude and you said a...
Yours a fortitude. The seatbelt doesn't go around Alejandro. But he's also strong enough that he'd stop it. It would just damage the car. And he was fine. He does know what brake checks are. So he's like, oh, I should brace myself.
That is an 8.
I'm sorry. Wait, is it a
fortitude check because you're buckled up, and I just want to see how easily you are wakeable from an impact.
Okay.
Nix, you wake up immediately because you come from a planet where everything's kind of cobbled together and seatbelts are not quite as effective. So you felt the jolt and you're like, well, I'm up. And we, for a moment, see this psychic version of Nix looking down on the tiny figure at the end of the road. And as you retract, the sky itself, like, bursts with color as your psychic energy leaves that space. Slower, but 3FL, you do also feel the jolt enough that you're like, you're there by choice. You could choose to be like, well, I'm going to see what's happening in the meat space. Still very shadow running very quickly.
In the meat space?
That's bad. That's
what it's called.
This is bad.
The meat with meat juice space.
No.
Much better. If y'all are watching 3FL-A2, you know, they're when they were in their mind space, their optical receptors were you know, like blinking slowly, like red, not like in a scary way, but this is like a turned off machine way. And then you watch the red, it starts blinking faster, transitions to yellow, and then to blue. And now they're awake.
Yeah,
they're good.
Both of you are awake. Alejandro turns to Nix and says, Nix, since you opened a door and then I nearly died, you should tell us what that was.
Nix just sputters, and then I think promptly, just bursts into tears. And even through her tears, she's gabbling, and it's, you know, eventually comes out to sound something like, I didn't know you were up there. But it takes quite a long time for that statement to make itself known.
Some of you might think that Alejandro is a kind enough person to let you off the hook as you're bawling hysterically, but he's just staring at you with vacant crystal eyes.
Yeah, and it's like it takes Nix several minutes to pull herself together, and even as she'll kind of settle down, and then she'll start to speak, and then when she starts to speak again, her, like, she can't get anything out because she stutters so much that then she loses her trail again, and so finally, she scrambles around, like, reaching around in the blankets and the floor until she can find one of her slabs. And you notice again that she's still struggling with that. But finally, she just pulls up she had picked up those books, and she pulls up an entry basically from the, you know, Psionics for Idiots guide, and she pulls up like the chapter headings, and the first like chapter title is you know, so you've discovered you're a psionic, and then the second one below it is, you know, like all these sort of like for idiots sort of things, and it was clearly made it's been made by somebody who themselves was psionic. It's not like official literature. It's almost a mockery of that kind of thing. But she punches the entry and she just shoves it forward to first, like, she's almost reaching towards Alejandro, and then she flinches back and she shoves it at Kid, so that Kid can read it aloud and just kind of like starts trying again to wipe out her eyes and speak.
Kid, you're handed a smart slab that reads the introduction to Psionics for Dummies. As Alejandro's hand is moving really slowly to where the smart slab used to be, and it's like pulling it back,
Kid times the motion of Alejandro moving his hand back to be in the right position to grab the tablet.
It's basically like watching someone do Tai Chi, but unintentionally.
And so the piece that Kid is now looking at is an overview of when accidents occur and people can latently access energies that they hadn't had powers with before. And like it lists, several ways this can occur. But the sense that you get is that what would have led to something like this is a disaster. It's been written from a perspective of someone who is themselves still bitter, which is probably why Nyx has kept it on her slab, because she resonated with it.
Is there like, I'm not sure how like meta it would be of like, is there like much knowledge of like the difference between the different forms of empowerment?
So certainly spiritualism is pretty common across the galaxy. Then psionics is the next most common. Then primalism, and then genomancy, like way back. But like there is a school for psionics in like the Imperial space. It's not a school that a lot of people go to, because most people have psionic interludes in the way that 3FL just did, which is not you have the power to affect things, it's that you are able to receive things. And Kid, you had like quite good schooling, if I remember correctly. Basically the current school of thought in the Empire is that everybody can be receptive with enough understanding to psionics, but not everyone can reach out with a white beam of their brain and pick someone off the road. But the school for psionics in the Empire would be what did that, so they are not uncommon, and you'd be aware of that from being an Imperial space child. You probably went to a good enough school that you got tested at like the age of 8 to see if they did the card thing of like, can you tell what this card is? Like, out of 1,000 cards, and like, of course you couldn't.
So yeah, Kid looks at the tablet for a moment before so TLDR, you're psionic, right?
Like through the tears, Nyx like blinks really wide-eyed at Kid, and then sort of giggles, and it's got that hysterical laugh that kind of finally shuts down the crying. Yeah, TLDR. Or I guess maybe I'm psionic, or maybe it's there's some, and she holds up her hands and like flexes them, running her fingers over where there had been like brief but healed, that Chamomile knows, those faint scars where the nanites had come out. There's nanites. They're inside of me, and maybe inside of that vine. I don't know if they're still there, but remember, and she like fades off again. She goes, I was in an accident.
Hinder our health.
Say again.
Hinder our health.
I
think I got your file.
Yeah. A lot of. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Solan'iks'ada. That's me.
Can I get your file?
Yes.
So
you got their info. I don't know that you got their file.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did. I did get it. I got info. Okay.
Also, when Nyx holds up the arm that is normally extremely scarred, the two fingers, the ring finger and the middle finger, are completely healed. As if never injured at all.
Nyx is like running her fingers over the scars that have become really familiar. And as she does that, it's that like moment where you like run your tongue over a tooth that's missing and you're shocked by it. And she just stops and stares down at her hands, and then looks back up at Alejandri and sort of sputters again. It is still impossible to make out what she's saying because every time she starts to try to speak again, she starts to stutter once more when she's like looking directly at him. Until she just stares down at the like seat in front of her.
Well, while we're in the business of revealing things, Nyx, 3FL, Chamomile. Is Chamomile awake now too, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The reason we're on this journey suddenly is I am attending to a distress call, an encrypted distress call that I received to my smart lab last night, or I guess this morning, about an hour ago, from an undercover agent for the Empire, because I am also an undercover agent for the Empire. Is part of my duties as an agent to assist fellow agents of my status that are in help or that need help, and so that is what we are doing. And I apologize for not telling you sooner and for almost getting all of you killed. That's not my intention. My goal is to assist people and improve their quality of life, especially in the outer rings, as there's not that much Imperial oversight that could help improve that. And then she just continues to start babbling, like the chaos of that fight is now just like going into her just talking really fast and like trying to get all the energy out with words instead.
Nyx is watching this from the outside, fascinated.
Alejandri leans across with his like left hand and puts it on your shoulder, but also slightly on your chest in the way that like his mother did in the flashback from the start, to try and calm you down. And then we'll just talk over you if you don't shut up. And we'll say, so just to be clear, secret spy, secret psionic, you're probably don't have a lot of secrets, pointing at Chamomile, and then points at Kid, says, secret cyclist?
I'm actually a nuclear weapon.
Do you have your own codes?
They say, do you have your own codes?
Yes, to trigger yourself.
3 key phrases.
Nyx is like studying whenever Alejandra says. Nyx is just like turns all of her attention on Kid and just like starts like looking Kid over very intently, as though to see where those those codes would get plugged in.
As you're looking over,
does not accept that voice recognition could be how codes work. It's gotta be a panel.
As you're looking over, Kid, the audience sees, as this has been like the longest like 1 to something hour car ride of Kidren's entire life. If there's like a little graphic of like a bar filling up, it's approaching the point where Kidren, upon first getting onto the ship, locked themselves into a room and just screamed.
That's very funny.
Can you repeat that? Because I lost the last bit of it. It kind of digitized it for me.
Kidren, somewhat facially, is approaching the level of where they shut themselves into their quarters and screamed when they got onto the ship.
Can 3FL make an understanding check on Kid here?
You can make 4 understanding checks and label them for who they're for if you like. There's a lot of trauma happening in this car right now.
Can I also make an understanding check on Kid, or like it, because like it's insight but understanding. Be like, are they lying about being a
You don't
nuclear
need
bomb?
to make an
Or is it just
understanding
sarcasm?
check to know that they are. You are charismatic enough to just know that that's a lie.
Yeah,
Firstly,
okay, great.
if somebody was, they wouldn't know it. Like, there's no way the person that made a bomb
That's
into a
true.
human would tell the human. Like,
I get just as a preface for this series
21
of
is the
understanding
minimum,
checks,
right?
they're all going to minimum.
Yeah, 21.
Okay. I really
Amazing.
like.
Man, I love
you
being
just
an
have
expert.
How deeply you know every single secret we have.
You have a therapist just sitting in the middle
Jack,
seat
I
at
love
the
this
back of the
reliable
car.
feat.
It's pretty good. I enjoyed
I love it. It's
in
so great.
the one shot. Meanwhile, this has taken some time to get all of you speak as players speak very succinctly, but it has taken time for each of these like little revelations to happen. So we are edging closer to the building itself. Do them all at once because I will also resolve them based on the rolls that you make. You're maybe 12 minutes out now of where you suspect it is from your decoding. Did you have Dart out over the car, Kid? Was that a thing?
Not previously, but they could.
Okay.
I considered, I considered asking that, but I didn't want it to get left behind if the car was moving too fast.
No, it would latch on. That's fine. Just roll. No, it's fine. We'll say that you didn't do it coming back because of the bikers and stuff, and maybe it would get blown up or something. I think it makes sense to not retcon that it happened. As you're edging forward and we're getting these vastly different rolls, another alert comes to your smart slab, Lucira. From the same address. It is this time still encrypted, but because your slab has broken the previous encryption, it gets fixed a lot quicker. The message comes through and it kind of pops up, and I assume you have your smart slab somewhere that you can see it. And it kind of pops up, forces itself to be readable to you since you've probably set it into that mode. And says, enemies at the gates, inside, clear but dangerous. Help, 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 help. And then it just ends. Meanwhile, Therapist 3FL, Therapist FL, I think is how I'm going to refer to you for this one. So, Alejandri, I'm going to do first because you did that one last and it's the simplest with your 21. So, things are difficult for him movement-wise and even talking, like he's getting used to that. But he seems to have bounced back in a way that, to you, with a 21, seems unhealthily quickly. He also is probably still injured. Like, you don't know how that transformation happened, but you can't imagine that, like, structurally he's completely sound yet. Kid, firstly, definitely not a nuclear bomb. That was a joke. With a 21, that's what you understand. Just go rewrite Kid's backstory for a second. But you do feel like this one's almost entirely like that instinctive understanding of humans that you've gained over a while. You feel like a rising tension that is like, it's not a tension that is necessarily going to explode outwards at somebody, but it is a tension that is building and building inside someone that maybe you haven't seen hit that peak of frustration before. Nyx with a 28. There's a lot happening with Nyx at the moment. Obviously, they just did a lot of stuff that you have an understanding of psionics that's very limited. They did a lot of stuff that is like quite advanced psionics. That's not like baby's first reading of the mind, like where you just surface read that somebody is happy. They were able to affect the real world with their mind, and that is a significant psionic ability. Also, as you look at them and they're looking down at their two healed fingers, there's something there, but I'll come back to it and let Charlie tell you what Nyx is feeling in that moment. You've never seen, in the entire time you've traveled with these people, which is edging on 60 days now, you've never seen Lucira even 10% of as flustered and as rattled as Lucira is now. There's absolutely what Lucira said was true, but Madi, you can correct me if this is wrong, but you think that the likelihood is that the revelation that Lucira made is not where the panic is coming from, but rather what just happened. And Nyx, what are you feeling as you look down at your healed fingers?
Despite like what should objectively be a good thing, the amount of scarring that she had, certainly here and there, interfered with her dexterity. It was one of those things that she should have obviously, for Thriftfell, like that should have obviously been attended to. There's no reason in modern society that she should have had that, but she did, and now it's gone, and she's staring at it, like she doesn't recognize her own hand, and like she can't decide if that's a good thing or not, and just kind of reflexively touching it, examining the way the skin feels, comparing it to the other finger, then reaching back out and touching the scars again.
And before you react to all of that information, could you also make me a perception check?
What do I have?
Kid, you can also make this perception check. It's up to you. You don't have to, because it requires you to be looking at someone else, and I would be fine if you were like, kid's doing their own thing.
Yeah, I will make a perception check. I was going to say that after the biker incident, that kid would be keeping an active eye out as much as they can.
Lucira would be trying to as well, but is more focused on not having a whole breakdown while she's driving a vehicle moving very fast.
25.
Oh, great. You both got close enough that I can just tell you at the same time. You are scanning the horizon, Kid, and in the very distance you start to make out the grey of a structure, but it is quite far away. Both of you kind of notice 3FL as you're directing your attention to see how Nyx is doing, Kid as you're kind of scanning to the other window, that you can see the skin underneath the two healed fingers, crawling with tiny little things underneath the skin. You can't make out what they are. Based on what Nyx has intimated, they are possibly nanites, but they are working on the surface of those fingers. to like actively fix them right now.
FL-A2 will is Nick still like also like clutched at 3FL's arm?
100%.
3FL-A2 will like take their hand and will like put it on the hand that's like grabbing at them. Nix, I think now might not be the best time for talking about this too much, but if it hurts in any way, we can take some time to talk about it.
Nix hesitates and just sort of brokenly kind of nods, but squeezes back at the hand and then turns around and like tries to look out the mirror. She's settled down. She's not exactly crying still, but just very teary. Had long given up on trying to like manage all of that. Yeah. There's somebody we gotta help first. But she is not in the state to like realize that she is not giving them any information that they don't know. She's thinking about that person that she saw psionically screaming, and that's what's going on in her head.
We'll take some time to focus on you, I promise.
And she just like looks like back towards Alejandro's seat. Unable to articulate, but it's probably fairly obvious to Chamomile with that recent high understanding roll to Thrifel that she's not exactly certain that she's the one that needs to be focused on, and doesn't know how to like address that in that moment. So she just sort of nods, but it's a very, yeah, we're not going to handle me moment sort of nod.
And then letting that sort of settle into like silence. Chamomile has on one last flannel that they will like take off and will like hand over to Kid and go, if you need to like use this car and make a quiet space for yourself, this makes an effective shield, but also you don't have to accept it.
A singular eyebrow arches at Chamomile, and Kid will take the flannel and will just kind of like sit up a bit in their car seat and tie it like a sash around their waist and then keep watch still.
As this is happening, Lucira, you get a file sent to your smarts lab. This one would require you to drive less safely to look at, because you have to like put in a code to get into your particular part of your slab, and it won't show up automatically.
Can I make a paladin check?
Nope, not unless something happens.
See how well I can drive while opening it?
No, you can
Okay.
just do it. It's like one-handed. I will assume that anyone that says they can drive one-handed on a straight road, unless something happens. You open it, and it's like a very high-quality camera footage of the gate of this, and it looks a little bit... It's not a gate. It's like a portal. It's not a portal. It's like a door. Looks quite like the one in on Endor in Jedi that they have to get through. And there's a car parked a little bit away. It's got like huge neon green like slashes across it that have been painted on. It's got a turret on the back. Nobody's sitting in the turret, but there are like 3 people, 2 of them holding guns and one of them using some kind of plasma cutter type device to try and get through this. What you know is like the last big like protective thing of what would be an Imperial like listening station that is here to essentially just pick up things that are coming off this planet and through this region. But yeah, you can see, as far as this camera shows you, there are 3 people standing outside this door that you will be coming up to. You would arrive at it in about 6 minutes now.
All right. 6 minutes out, there's a vehicle that's been painted with. I assume that's kind of like the painting on the car is like the pirate stuff.
Yeah, it's all pretty hodgepodgey. It
Yeah.
is as garish as the bikes were and the helmets on the bikers and stuff.
Yeah. All right. The gates we're approaching. ETA 6 minutes. 3 pirates, I assume, are very close to getting inside of this station. Would we like to sneak past, or frontal, or attack them and get the surprise on them?
Is it just 3 of them?
3 that this camera footage only shows 3. There could be more, but at this, with what I know, there's only 3 at the moment, but there could be more elsewhere. Inside the building is clear, though. Clearly my contact or my fellow agent is still alive and is sending me things, so that's good at least.
Can you ask them if they have any idea how many people there actually are there?
I cannot. This is a one-way transmission only.
Oh, fan-fucking-tastic.
When Nyx was like walking through space, did she see that?
Yes. I didn't describe it at the time, but yes, I think you did. They're very, very, very minor. And you basically, I think even now as you're thinking back to it, Nyx, you know that you only saw them because you basically stood where they are standing. And that was the moment in which you're like, oh, there's people here. They're not like psionics, they're just people. But they were the only 3 you saw on this whole road. And this was like 40 minutes ago. 40 minutes ago, you remember, like, they seemed to be unloading something from the car. But 3 checks out with what you know.
Kid? There were 3. Whenever we got in the car, and started driving again, there were 3. Only they had something. They were taking something. They're taking something out of, or well, they would have taken. It has to be out by now. It wasn't. I don't think it would have taken that long. There's something that they took out of a car. The 3 people.
Okay. That's not good. Would I know that this was an Imperial listening station, or would I just know that there's someone?
Only from seeing the door. Like, it will.
Okay.
It will take you a couple of minutes to piece it together, because that door is it could be a normal thing, but once you've had a couple of minutes, which will be after this conversation has happened, you'll be like, that's probably actually an Imperial facility.
Okay.
But I think you were focused too much on the driving and the people and the getting through the gate and stuff. Kid, you categorically know.
Are you able to...
So,
okay.
Go ahead, Kid.
Oh, I was gonna say, Kid would speak up at the confirmation of possibly only 3. Can you stop at least 300 feet before we get there?
Yeah. Yes, I can. This is an Imperial facility. I don't know what's in it, but clearly they brought something to get in, and they're trying to get something out. So, not good.
You stop. I'll give you 600 feet, because there's a little rise that's about to happen, and you can see the top of this facility, which is covered in sand. But there's a little rise, and you can kind of pull over and stop there, and perhaps scout them without them seeing you. Though if they are still looking at the door, they won't be seeing you anyway. And as you crest over the rise, you do see, Kid, you can see it through your scope easily. or through dart, whichever you prefer. There's a car, nobody's in it, and there are 3 people. The 2 that are holding guns have taken to banging on the door with the butts of their guns, ineffectively, and the person with the plasma cutter is working away at it, but it's a super thick door that's designed to take a long time to get through.
Is the plasma cutter like a big thing, or is it just like a handheld item?
It has a cord that's connected to a big generator battery situation, and it is outputting a lot of. Even from here, you can see the light. So it is like an industrial grade plasma cutter. It's not like the one that Nyx probably has in this cart with you right now. A weird laugh.
How easy does it look like it would be to get within effective firing range?
I feel like as a sharpshooter, your effective firing range is like 1,000 feet with your sniper rifle.
I'd say the gun says 300 and then 900 at disadvantage.
So, one of the very fun things about you could get within 300 feet and it would take a stealth roll. But particularly with like your assassin's thing, that doesn't even require a roll. So even at extreme range, that is still a hit. But there's 3 of them, and then you've got to deal with that. But yeah, you just have to make a stealth roll to get within 300 feet. There is some coverage of like sand and dunes and stuff.
So, just reading over an ability and seeing just now for the first time specific wording. If the wording says within effective range, or not effective, but within weapons range, that includes at disadvantage range, right?
Yep.
Okay. How close are the 3 people standing together? If they're all hitting the same door.
It's a big door, but they are close together. I was gonna say, well, like 20 feet apart, but I think that I would rather they be one's with the plasma cutter in the middle, and the other 2 are like flanking them, like about 5 feet on either side. That kind of range. So maybe it's 15 feet from one to the other, and they're just hitting away.
Kid will not just give Lucira a look before propping their rifle against the car and taking off their jacket and showing the bulletproof vest, and will unzip it somewhat and will reach into an inner pocket and pull out a piece of ammunition and load it into the rifle before taking off the flannel kind of waist that they have and kind of like pat it against their shoulder to prevent some of the kickback. And then we'll take aim and give one last look to Lucira, and if in the next 5 seconds no facial or expression or words come out, Kid will be doing something.
So she has regained her composure for the most part. She's like 95% back to her usual self, and will just give you a firm nod.
Kid will look back through the scope and will for a moment open their one closed eye, and will kind of look down at their jacket where a bit of that leather tag that they had took from one of the other ones is a bit visible before reclosing the eye. And I would like to use blast radius on the one with the plasma cutter.
Yep, that makes sense. So they make escape checks. So I have to
Fireball
check.
for Kid.
I have to check how this works with efficient killer. So
like wizards say, I cast fireball, and you're like, shit, every time.
No. This is fine. This is good. All right. So you're gonna they're each gonna make an escape save, and on a fail they get hit, and on a save they don't take anything. The critical hit, because you're a fighter, is going to include your you deal
Modifiers and stuff.
Yes, equal to your damage modifiers on top of the extra dice, which is great. So everything doubles. And if you kill any of them, anything that is overlapping will shrapnel to the next person, who is also probably exploding. Yep. Alright, so it's your ranged weapon DC, which is 10 plus whatever your bonus is in ranged weapons.
Oh, does it matter if the weapon also has a +1?
No. You can give this thing an attack a +1, but it will degrade your weapon by one condition. So if you want to use that, I'm happy for you to use that. Like, the gun is better, but it will damage the gun.
That's fine.
Okay. So what's
Kidren's at that place right now.
Yep. So what's your total save that these need to make?
I think that would make it, with everything, a 21.
Sure.
Because it's a +9, and then everything, my range skill goes up by 1 because of the subclass.
Yep.
And then the condition is a +1.
So 21. They're not super dexterous. So, well, they are super dexterous, but they're not very intelligent. That's very funny. So, I feel like I want to narrate this Wanted style. We see the bullet leave the end of Kid's gun, and the bullet is already expanding as it's leaving, and the end of your gun, which is like perfect and immaculate, the rifling and everything is perfect, and it just kind of expands and it damages the barrel of your gun ever so slightly, so you lose one condition on your gun. As the bullet continues, for a few moments it just looks like a genuine normal bullet, and as it is about to reach them, this the entire side of it, as it spins, we see this, like, it looks almost like fantasy runes, but it is the bullet's technological insides beginning to work. And the moment before impact against this little... He's not that small, but in this moment and to this explosion, he's going to look really small. This little man with a plasma cutter, it just expands and lets out this, like, giant ball of shrapnel. There is fire amongst it to combust the shrapnel out, but it is largely shrapnel that's hitting them. They have all failed. I'm going to get you to roll the damage against each of them individually. Normally I'll do it all as one big thing when we're in combat, but in this case I like the individual part of it. Oh, so the way Blast Radius works for everybody else, this is a critical against everybody that fails.
Oh, boy.
So for the first person...
The little plasma cutter man.
29.
The explosion starts on him, and we see just, like, it hits him, because this is not a precision weapon, this is like hitting 3 people with a giant hammer. It hits him, like, in the mid-torso, and then that part of his body is gone, and into the shrapnel, blood and bone, and, like, bits of leather and metal that were his armor are added, because he is full dead. So, some damage of that is going to roll over. A lot of it.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie, that guy was a small little mechanic man. A lot of it carried over. I mean, he was a bandit still. Like, he's still not a great guy. But he was not a fighter. He was like their technician. So roll for the second one.
Alright. Second guy.
I think that first roll was good enough.
So now we're including damage from the bone shrapnel.
Yep.
28.
28. So that's 28 plus 18. So 46. If he was a PC, you just killed him. Like, from full health, he is a dead person if he was a PC. He took 23 and then 23 again. You can roll for the last one, but your carryover damage is currently 23. So I think it's possible that he will be dead.
I mean, always roll for everybody, right?
Yeah. See how much of this carries over to the
Wouldn't
door.
want him to
That's
feel
the
left out.
important thing.
So that last one, that is 59.
59 total. I was about to add 23 to that.
Yeah.
59.
Oh, no.
So, the bullet expands, and you all see an explosion. But we, as the audience, who are right there, see this shrapnel blast eviscerate the primary target of it. And in that bone and fire and metal and blood explosion, both of the two that were butting the door with the guns are just thrown forward into the door, and the shrapnel blast pierces through them and then into the door where the plasma cutting has already started, and we just see the door explode inward, but not enough to break through the door itself. The door still, even though you did 34 damage over the top of these people, still just holds. There's like a big bulge in, almost like a punch has been thrown into this door, and as the dust settles and the explosion settles and the bone and the metal settle, you just see two people that were standing pushed up against the door now. They're just legs. And the person that was doing the plasma cutting does not exist. Nor does the plasma cutter, which has just exploded. And I feel like there's no better time than that to take a break. Because...
Two people are like, let's take a moment.
Yeah. And then I think
Excuse
it gives Kid the best amount of time to come up with the perfect one-liner. So we'll come
We
back...
need a balance, yeah.
We'll come back
We need a
in...
balance
you don't
one-liner.
have to come up with a one-liner, but we'll come back in...
Actually, I can give a one-liner before we end.
Yeah, it's
You
more
want to?
impressive now.
Kidren, mainly just to themselves, as they're not attempting to make this super vocal to everybody, just says, one, by the way.
That's funny. Alright, and we will be back in 15 minutes, 5 past the hour, whatever it ends up being. See you all soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second half of what is quickly becoming the obvious mid-season finale of The Infinite. We're at episode 11. Feels like a good time. If one of you was a surprise guest actor that was supposed to be main cast, you'd be getting beheaded in this episode. I did quotes for all of that, and I think they lost their meaning, and now I'm stuck in it. So, Kid has just murmured their one-liner, and our camera shifts focus. There's a quick fade to black, and then it's back in, and it's on a smart slab in a sort of familiar hand. I don't know how familiar Valis' hand is naturally, but Valis is looking down at a smart slab, and there's just a message from Tiago, and it just says, change of plans. We're going to just kill the Pirate King. And we cut back to the rest of you. So, there seems to be nobody out here anymore. Oh, well, there's 2 half-men.
How visible is the carnage from like 900 feet?
To you,
or whatever, 600 feet?
To you, very obvious. Even to everybody else, there seems to be less human matter than there should be. But you did just see an explosion. Like, none of you are naive to the power of explosions. I want that on a t-shirt. Nobody's naive to the power of explosion.
Yeah, Kid
Sarah
will
just looks impressed.
Kid will just stand back up from where they've been kind of crouched, pick back up their jacket, and we'll just kind of like look back to everyone, and then probably just shrugs.
I will say, you set up your rifle in such a way that it didn't do a lot in the kickback to you. It has pushed in a panel of your car. Like, if you want to just add that to the list of damages to that car. But yeah, you are 600 feet away from a door that has had a lot more damage done to it than doors normally can weather. And you, I assume, will start off in that direction. As you get closer, Nix, you start to hear, or feel more, a really low keening scream at like the base of your neck, or the base of your spine, base of your skull. Whatever, the base of something. Who knows how Nix's anatomy works? But you feel this low screaming, keening sound. And you can tell that it's coming from that figure that you saw before.
Nyx kind of like just reaches up, and at this sound, like her frill has kind of expanded, and it's trembling, and she just kind of orients. We need to go faster.
To the car, past the car.
Somebody needs our help. And she's like, can she kind of pinpoint, like, does she have like a directional with this sort of thing?
Yeah, it's straight ahead and downwards. Like,
yeah,
it's under
she like
your level.
Throws her arm out, pointing forward, and then she drops her arm slightly, and then like lifts it just a little bit, and just.
So subterranean.
Actually, you can all make psionic rolls. Lucira, it would be normal for this to have a subterranean level. It's mainly subterranean levels. Even now, as you see it, it's like only got a very small top level.
Are we like close enough that she might be able to start like trying to pull schematics, that kind of thing?
Yes, you can make me computers roll to try and get into this thing. As always,
she is going to turn to Lucira.
Mm-hmm.
What?
No, you go ahead. I will finish this while you're making the roll.
She's going to turn to Lucira, and she's going to say, access codes, any sort of help here? I want blueprints.
See what I can do, and I will try to pull up any kind of mainframe that I can have access to via my smart slab as an Imperial agent.
It's in full lockdown. Anyone that wants to get any information out would either have to hack into the system or verify themselves with whoever has initiated the lockdown. Kid, as always, the person that is most aware of the other stuff happening in the universe, you also hear this, like, feel this scream, and it is like in that, it just raises the, like, hairs on the back of your neck. It's that kind of very low in the background thing, but you are cognizant enough to, like, pick it up. 21 is not high enough to break through an Imperial listening station's defenses. You, like, start trying to hack it, and it's just, like, evident that it is in such a lockdown that there's no way that you're going to get through that without either a lot of time or, like, verifications of stuff. But
Can I try doing the verification process with my own credentials?
sure, you, even when you go and try and access it, it needs you to actually verify with a person. It won't let you verify it through the system because the system is considered to be compromised. But you've arrived at the door. It is in extremely bad shape. There is 3/4 of a line of plasma cutter that has been, like, tried to make an opening in the center of the door, and then also it's just been punched in about 2.5 feet from this blast. There is a pad at the side that has some scorch marks on it where it looks like people have tried to shoot it to get it to open. But it is robust enough that hasn't stopped it working. And that is a way that you could access whoever is the system administrator currently for this entire station, Lucira.
And we haven't seen, there's been no indication that there's anybody else around outside. Once Kidren just blasted those 3 people, there's no indication of any other.
You see a lot of footprints, but you, I think, would know that this place would normally have a normal door that somebody, if it was a surprise that these people had shown up, they could just get through that door and there could be people inside. And this blast door has kind of closed as a security measure during the lockdown.
Okay. We need to get to this door.
So
But the systems aren't open to me.
So there's several ways you can get through. Lucira, you can just go and use essentially the box as an intercom and hope the person is at a place that they can answer it. Otherwise, you can try and blow your way through the door. It is quite fragile at this point.
Puff and puff.
Do we want to punch our way through, or should I try and see if I can reach my contact?
I mean, if it was my door, I would have something ready to shoot the people that make it through. So, maybe your contact?
Okay. I will go and try to use the intercom to try and reach someone.
Hello?
This is Lucira Shemdir, Imperial Agent. Received your distress beacon.
Passcode?
Would I know what a passcode is?
Yeah, it's the thing that Melba said to you in your flashback last time. That I wrote down, but I don't have the piece of paper for me. But I won't make you remember.
I don't think I wrote it down.
You didn't write it down? I was like...
No.
I tried to foreshadow so much that was going to be important. That's fine.
It's fine when it's fine when the episode's up on YouTube. I'll just write it down real quick.
Along the lines of may you never be shaded by stars or something strange like that. Some weird thing that sounds like a passcode, and you say that. because I trust Lucira to remember these things. This has been a bad episode for
Yes.
both of our memories of stuff.
Yeah, it's not
We're
great.
getting really hammered by the fact that neither of us remember any of these things.
Lucira is the most secretive character by
Yep.
By faulty memory of her player.
The person on the other end says, Imperial Agent, give me one moment. And the line goes dead for a second. And then, quite slowly, given how damaged the door is, it begins to, like, open. And all of you are assaulted by the smell of iron. Not quite the irony smell of human blood, because these are not humans. There's like another chemical in it, like it's almost a chlorine smell as well. But Kid, you're kind of, well, the rest of you are standing at the door, and you see there's just pools of blood caking this entryway. But there are 4 people wearing Imperial armor, very high quality Imperial armor, who are leveling guns. Well, they're not really leveling the guns, but they are, Kid, you're aware that they are like ready to shoot at you if you make even the slightest wrong move. And the voice comes over the intercom and says, the guards should let you through.
All right, we're coming in. I am a party of 5.
They don't.
Kidren, stop waving.
They kind of train their guns on you, even as you walk past.
I'll have my hands up and Smart Slab open with my credentials open on it for them to see.
As you're getting towards the back, someone that Kid, make a perception check, and 3FL. The other 2, I don't think could possibly see it.
Not with a -1.
Lucira definitely, but I don't even think Nyx has the capability of rolling well enough in this.
That's a 22.
Yeah, so
Dirty 20.
none of you have seen it, seen them, but as you head towards the back, you see someone dressed in pure black. Not like, oh, it's black fashionable, but like black that is meant to disperse light away from it. And they like step
That's
forward.
black.
Not even that, because that's obvious. It's like
Is-
designed to camouflage them.
Is it as dark as that like bougie ass place we went to like a few sessions ago?
Black
No,
Sky
no.
Botanic. No. Is it
Yeah,
Black Sky?
actually, it is probably as black as Black Sky. But they step forward, holding what looks to be some kind of gun. Kid, you may have seen one of these in the past, but they have a black mask on, and it flips up. They've got a very young, very feminine face as they look at Lucira and say, Commander Shemdir. And they kind of have their gun in one hand and they reach into their pocket and they hold up like their credentials. They're like one rank above you in the Imperial agent structure that we talked about at length and I've forgotten everything about. And they say, thank you for hearing our distress call. And she kind of gestures and a door opens that leads into the rest of the facility. And as the 5 of you walk past the other 4, they walk outside and you just hear the starting of an engine of a car, and then maybe 5 seconds later an explosion as they've driven the car further away and then just blown it up so they don't have to deal with that car. And the agent in front of you says, we don't know what happened. One of the workers here, we're a listening station. We hear we are meant to pick up things from all over the surrounding sectors, but we are actually at the moment picking up predominantly the encrypted things the pirates are sending out to their fleet, to the people that they are working with, things like that. But we are here originally as a research station. There's a lot of planets that are at the very start of their galactic journeys in this area, and we wanted to research without imposing the Imperial ways on them directly. We have things to do with that, but somebody was working with the pirates on the inside, and the entire base area of the thing, and she pulls up on her smart slab the schematics of the base, and the top level's just an entryway, and you're about to go down into an elevator. The second level is like all research, and then the third level is like where they store everything, like all of the information storing, but also where the listening station is itself, because it's the hardest to get to. He says, we don't know how anybody even really knew we were here. Everybody is from off planet. We don't go and socialize in the city. But this morning, correct, because morning is not accurate because it's always night here, really. Also, it's been night this whole time.
Screaming?
Yes. Yeah, for you it's getting louder. Kid, it's the same, but for you it's getting louder.
Nyx just grabs Lucira's arm, and says, "We don't have," and she points again, and because she's stuttering too much to make herself clear, and she just points at that shout. We need to go.
Is there someone down there that's still injured? To the agent? No, to the agent. I say that.
The agent was waiting to see if Nyx somehow knew the answer to that, but is looking at Nyx quite suspiciously, and says, Anyway, we have to wait for." And she gestures to the elevator. She says, "The bottom level, there was an explosion of highly flammable chemical, and it has raised the entire bottom. I know that you are eager to get downstairs. This is an elevator in emergency mode. It is not going to go faster because you are eager to get downstairs.
The shaft is open."
This person is mid-thought.
An elevator is a car, but there is a shaft in that space.
By the way, does this agent look like they've been injured? Are they bloody, or do they look pristine?
They, from what you can tell from their, make a perception check. Actually,
shit.
Everyone can make a perception check if you like, but I like particularly Lucira making it.
Nyx is not making
another fucking one.
Check.
I'm gonna be so mad. Hey, it's a 7, so it's a 6.
Kid will make a perception check.
You can make xenobiology if you like, xenophysiology. 3FL, if you prefer.
Can I...
17.
Counter proposal.
Yeah, you can always counter proposal what you want to roll.
No, I need to think of... No, I'll just make the roll.
Kid, they look fine. Lucira, you can't tell. They aren't visibly limping or walking in any way that they're carrying an injury, Kid. From what you can tell.
I was going to say, while the elevator is slowly descending, Kid will kind of look over at Nyx, and will, from their usual stance of arms crossed, will just kind of nudge them with their elbow.
Nyx just kind of takes a very, very deep breath, and just kind of starts nodding at Kid, message received, but then just kind of forgets to stop nodding. Just sort of bobbleheads there for a long moment.
3FL, you can smell blood, from this person. They are bleeding somewhere, but you can't really tell where from, and they're carrying it extremely well, Kid.
Let's say at that, Kid will also, as quietly as an elevator full of people can be, towards Nyx. Are they screaming?
Yeah. And I think that's going to be an understanding check for Nyx, because she can't recall essentially if she's been specific about what's happening here.
Yeah, you can make an understanding roll to see if you have. It's very hard because, like, you have
Yeah.
no idea. Lucira, the person kind of makes a gesture to you as, like, the elevator arrives. It hasn't actually been that long since you got here, but the elevator, like, has to go through a no oxygen area to make sure that, like, it has to get completely deoxygenized so that there's no fire in it. The elevator comes up, and as you walk in, the person ushers you in, but Lucira makes a sign that you can see really clearly, and it's like the sign for basically, are you compromised? To ask you if you trust these people, because
The people that I'm with,
your group. Do you
Yeah.
trust them?
my group. I'll make the hand signal for, no, I'm not compromised. I trust them.
Okay.
Was that what the perception check was for?
No, the perception check was for how.
The
Oh,
injuries
so
to the
the
person.
wounded. Okay.
Yeah, you see that a hand signal is made. You don't know what it means. Kid, your passive perception is high enough that you see it. You don't know what it means. Probably a spy thing. As you all step into the elevator, it takes you down one floor to the research area, and she says, "All right, we have to travel downstairs. We can't take this elevator all the way down." And she leads you out, and now she is moving quickly, but there's still a real cautiousness to the way that she's moving because she's watching all of you, and she's watching, like, she seems less wary of Kid, who has weapons, and Alejandro, who has weapons, and it's like, well, that's just a person with weapons, like, but these two, what are they, and what are they doing here? But you head through, there's to the left a lab that seems to have a bunch of different plants growing in it. To the right, there's a xenophysiology lab. There's stuff that you walk past where they're, like, machining weapons and stuff like that. But then you head down these stairs. It's like a fire escape, essentially. It's cut into the rock. It's not designed to, like, be used as an in and out very often. The stairs are really steep, but you make your way down to the bottom of this, and you can feel.
My pistol is drawn at
Sure.
my side, though.
You can feel heat radiating as you step further and further towards what you've been told is a burning floor of this area. As you get to the door it's a metal door, and it glows with heat in a way that you can all tell touching that door will largely burn whoever tries to open it. With literally no discussion, the agent, who I think has probably announced that her name is Agent Nile, just reaches forward, and, like, you see a flinch of pain as she just opens the door, but she, like, just handles it. But yes, both of you can go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I was gonna point over at Kristen.
Okay, Kristen, hi.
So a while ago, and I didn't get, this is not something that we put in writing in the chat, but something we talked about offline. One of the stems that I have that is in a prototype phase, I have called the Kidren Likes Fire, and I need to be better prepared for that stem pack.
Yes, that's a true thing.
And I think something that, one, it's in prototype, so I don't know my plant distribution needed for that. And I also haven't established, like, how long the fire resistance.
While it's in the pure prototyping phase, you don't know any of these things. You're just like, well,
okay,
you've made some that should do it, and you've tested them enough to know that, like, well, it's good against fire, but it does have a major drawback, if I remember correctly. It's a major roll for that one.
Yep.
But yeah, you are welcome to use that.
I'm sorry. No, you continue with your narration.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was stated before.
Yep.
things started happening.
Good idea. She opens the door. It's clearly painful. All of you can tell that hurt her to do it. But as the door opens, you kind of see this huge, huge room, and it's empty, except for the rolling fire and flames. And between that, those of you that are more perceptive, so Kid and 3FL, what's your perception, Nix? Because I might include you in this.
It's a flat 0.
All right, the two of
my
you that
wisdom
are
is 0, and I have no ranks.
The two of you that are very perceptive, through the fire you can see that there's a glass floor, and below that glass floor there is what looks to be server banks of the likes you've never seen before. So many server banks, they are cooled with essentially dry ice just pumping into that room, but even they, you can tell, are being damaged by the heat that is emanating from above them, and it's starting to melt through even this very, very thick tempered glass. At the far end, you see a door. It's in a door in a glass wall. You can barely see it through the smoke and the haze. But in that room, there is somebody who seems to be trying to hold a machine together. Nix, you can see this not in the physical world, but you can see this white outline of a person who, with their mind, is holding two pieces of a thing close enough to still be conducting electricity, but you can't tell what that thing is from this distance. But with their mind, as opposed to with their body.
It's just... Nyx just sort of stops, and you can see her just kind of orient towards where that space is still. And after her astral walking sort of experience, does she have any PowerPoints left?
Yeah, I'll give you one PowerPoint.
How far away is she physically from this whole thing?
Maybe the whole room is 150 feet till that door, and then an extra 15 feet in, so 165 feet.
She's going to can she make she's trying to determine whether or not she's close enough, or whether she needs to get closer, and how quickly she can do that in order to just help, to just extend whatever she has to this person. And she is willing to take significant risks to do that.
While you're doing that, because you're thinking about it, you're operating in a separate space, Niall kind of turns and says, the only way to stop the burning, also, in that room is the, she's reaching for the Imperial word. She doesn't seem to speak Imperial as natively as, all of you do. She says, it's a quantum generator, and if it is damaged...
It's breaking.
Thank you. If it's damaged irreparably, it will blow up, and it will cause essentially a planet-sized destruction, because it will just blow this planet off its axis. There is and she kind of points, and to the very far end in one of the corners of the room, there seems to be a maintenance tunnel. She says, in this tunnel, we can activate the suppression system for everything, but I can't do it from the smarts lab anymore. So if we're in there, we can activate it. It will cut all the oxygen in this area, and hopefully we will be able to fix that machine before it deteriorates too far.
If we cut the oxygen, what will happen to who's holding it together psionically right now?
They kind of think about it and they say, well, if that door hasn't been breached, we can do just this room. But if that door has been breached, then they will also have no oxygen. Until the fire...
Has that door been breached?
I can't tell from here. There's no way of knowing. There doesn't seem to be fire in there. You can all see... Well, You can't, Lucira. You two can see that there doesn't seem to be fire in that room. But who knows how long that glass wall will last. Nick, to answer your question, the closer you are, the less energy it will take you and the more energy you will have to help them.
Yeah. Nix's evaluation when he said, when she said, basically a planet-wide event, Nix's calculation went from, oh, I will take significant risks to, get there, to I will take any risk to get there intact enough to help this person.
Great.
So
Everybody roll
when she's
initiative.
looking... Yeah.
Not that channel. Oops.
Just roll it in whatever channel you like. Well, it's all friendly. I can't see it. The stream can't see it, but I believe in Charlie, your ability to critical this roll.
I'm just gonna roll a flat d20 to see if that happens. I'll add my
24.
bonus.
This is why quickness is important. If you want to do something self-damaging.
Yep, I have a 5,
Kid.
is what I have.
Lucira. Then 3FL and Nyx. So the way this will work is that you have an amount of time. None of you are aware of what that is yet, and we're just gonna go through initiative order every time to see what people are doing. Kid, make me a perception check at the top of your turn.
What's the initiative? I was typing it out.
Kid, Lucira, 3FL, and Nyx. And
Where's Niles?
Niall
26.
Niall is in there somewhere. In the middle. Between the two of you that rolled well and the two of you that didn't. So, you scan the room and you see what looked to be some kind of part of the suppression system that if you made your shot correctly, you think that you could probably trigger... their suppression system has an oxygen-based thing, but there also seems to be a liquid coolant type thing that will put out fires, like a chemical fire will be put out that way. If you made a shot on one of these, it would help anybody moving across the room that you chose to help, basically. So on your turn, you can make a shot to do that, and it will kind of pay it forward to anybody that's moving into the room in that area. But you can also do whatever you like.
Would it take up an action to try and observe something?
Depends on how long the observation would take. So, often no.
How does it look? Well, I think you already answered this. I was going to say, if there are any electronics at all in the room that I can see, how immediately useless are they? Does it look like?
If there were electronics in this room, this fire has burnt long enough that they are no longer recognizable as electronics.
Do I have a reason? Would it be reasonable for me to assume that Dart likely couldn't get across this room?
The ceiling is quite high. You walk down quite a long distance. Dart would potentially be able to, but you have no way of knowing how hot it is in like the center of this room or something. You're like standing at the edge of it, and it is like extremely unpleasantly hot.
Gotcha.
That was free action to do that.
Okay. Kid. And you said these suppression systems, if I shot one of them, that benefit wouldn't extend to an entire pathway. It would just be a section of a pathway.
It would basically be... So, the room is essentially, as you're looking out at it, you rolled high enough that I will just tell you the entire way that the suppression system works for you to interact with it. The room is essentially 150 feet across. So it is 5 blocks of 30 feet which are movable. There's a suppression thing. There's 2 on each of the 5 blocks. So there's 10 that you can hit. One is like left zone that is closest to you, left zone 2 away, left zone 3 away, etc. And it will put out the fire to make it easier to move through that. And then the next round it will also be slightly easier to move through it before the fire comes back. But there are 10 options for you to shoot at. And the furthest one on the right is where you need to go, and that's number 10. And then it kind of just snakes across. I'll do a picture for you very quickly.
Okay.
I will post it somewhere, but
Kid will look back at their name was Nile.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll look back. Agent person. So do you have any way of crossing this room at all? Any type of gear? Any type of anything?
She kind of looks at you and gestures to the armor that she's wearing and says, "This is really all that we had for this, because the suppression system is meant to be automated firstly, and activatable through our general systems. Whoever has betrayed us for the pirates disrupted both of those ways of dealing with this."
I have I'm just going to level with you. Every way I can see in the situation is kind of shit. I think I have the less shit option of maybe getting someone across.
She nods, understanding that pretty much everything is pretty garbage. And I will send that thing to you on Discord in the general chat. I did this very quickly with pen and paper, so there'll be no mockery of my ability to draw rectangles.
Gotcha.
Or the shadow that I put over it, because I couldn't be bothered fixing that. So specifically for how your stuff is working, you just pick a sector and people will be moving through it. You are in the center of like 1 and 2. You can go from either direction.
Gotcha. I can manually activate the suppression systems up there if I get a shot off right.
You also are fairly confident that nobody... You don't know how good Niall is with a gun, but you know everybody else couldn't do that. I should roll for Alejandro, who is actually pretty resistant to fire. You can put Alejandro above Niall, but before Lucira. So yeah, you can hold a shot to see where somebody moves if you like, or you can make the roll now and just decide to activate it when somebody's doing it. Niall is like, whatever gets... We just need someone to get there. The suppression will work for this area, and she gestures to it. If you're in the maintenance tunnel, you will be safe. If you are in this space, and she like gestures to the stairwell, you'll be safe, but you'll need to close the door. If you're in the main room, when somebody triggers that, you will lose oxygen until the fire is out.
Right. Kid will make a show of unslinging the rifle and not firing, but it's going to hold and just aim at it's 2.
Sure. Lucira. I feel like you might have been quiet enough that I didn't hear what you said then, or you're muted.
I was muted. She's gonna run.
All right.
She's being dumb.
Sure. I like it. You run for the maintenance door, I assume.
Yeah.
All right. As soon as you run for the maintenance door, Kid takes a shot. I'm not going to make you roll for the closest ones because they're very close and you have sharpshooter, so you will just always hit them. It will get harder as you go further down. I need you to make me an escape check with advantage, since it has been reduced.
Okay. Oops. There it was. Oh, I didn't do a plus to that. Plus 0. So it's an 11.
Well, it's also less damage because Kid has turned on the suppression system.
Okay.
You take 13 points of damage as the fire.
Does that go past my shields?
No, it hits your shields first. Your shields.
Okay.
Very little just goes straight to your shields, to your health. The fire is dissipating as this cool blue liquid is kind of it's almost like a slime that's just like coating this area. But you can already see that the fire from the edges is starting to boil this stuff away and evaporate it. So this will not be a nice place to be for very much longer. Sorry, not 13, half of 13. So
okay.
6. I forgot the half.
Okay.
I was so focused on the fact that I rolled quite badly. Next up. So Lucira, you just see Lucira full run. This is difficult terrain. I'm assuming it's going to take your full action to like sprint through.
Is talking still a free action?
Yes,
That's
I will
the thing
let you largely talk at will, particularly in this situation where we're using initiative just so that everybody gets an opportunity to do a thing.
Lucira,
So-
I'm going for the maintenance tunnel.
I'm not going to yell because I'm currently not alone in my apartment. I don't want to scare someone. But you do hear, basically, Kid just snapped a little bit.
The person you least
Fucking
expect.
communicate!
I like the person that you least expect to just sprint across a on fire floor has just booked it and can just snap. I like it.
He's not doing well, guys.
Yep.
We're all having breakdowns.
Alejandro moves pretty fucking slow now, so also kind of heads out past Kid, but in the same direction as Lucira. I'll make an intelligence check for him. I'll do this one in the dice roll because this like has some interesting implications. Let me use notation. Why do you like this? Alejandro, the smartest boy in Wreathen history. Yeah, he just walks out. It's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. He takes even less damage than he takes a very minimal amount of damage.
Should have held my action just to
Shoot one of them in the back of the head.
Just clock someone in the temple.
Niall kind of looks at the two of them stalking out across the fire and he's like, we can't all go across because if somebody is stuck in this room and we need to activate the system, they will probably die. Did I know? That's clear, right? And she kind of looks at everybody else as she is still thinking about stepping out into the room. But she doesn't. And she will instead get on her smart slab and see if she can help out in any way that way. 3FL.
So, 3FL-A2 was making the motion to approach Kid. They have one of their fire-resistant stems that they had in development prepared. The moment that they see Lucira start running, not even asking for permission, is going to level this particular stem, which I don't know what it does.
Sure, I'll let you get it off at the range that you don't need to roll. Like, it just...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you roll because it kind of happened all at once. So, firstly, I'll let you make Maddie make the side effect roll if you like. So you don't have to have the responsibility.
Yeah, give me a D20, Maddie.
Just a D20?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some of these that are really bad.
12.
Oh, 12's alright.
Oh, no, this is a great one. Okay, so you have fire resistance for an amount of time. And all skills that you're going to be rolling with strength gain advantage for the next 24 hours. And all your successful melee attacks can be treated as criticals.
So, all of what Kristen just said is correct, except the wording as I wrote it is that all skills that could be rolled with strength are with advantage. You don't have to be using strength. So as long as it could be using strength, you get advantage. Which is one of the better ones. I think one of them just makes you intangible. Which
And then all melee attacks are criticals?
Yes. I left that out
when they hit.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily help you. I guess it still does for the thing. So, that happens. You feel this stim pierce into you, Lucira. And as you step... I'll say this happened before you touched the fire because of the nature of this combat. As you touch the fire, you feel it burning, and it does nothing. So remove that 6 damage that you should have taken.
Yep.
I need you to roll me a D20, please, Kristen.
Yeah, can do.
Do you hear Chris's comment?
Yeah. It is a 4.
Alright. I'll just roll some stuff. Give me a second to...
What's
Okay,
very
I guess
funny to
also
me.
Ridiculous.
Is that to determine what resources I am using? I have to subtract.
No, we'll work that out after the session.
Okay, cool.
No, it was to work out... I already decided what it was going to do. I was working out if it was going to do another thing on top of it. But I'm not going to tell you. So, yeah, Lucira, you feel actually far less of the heat as well. And you feel strong. You feel like you could lift Alejandri. Nyx.
Nyx had kind of like zoned out, like focused on this person's effort, clenching her fist back and forth, touching an invisible line, and when she next tunes in, she's staring at the others who have just run into the fire, and she's like, she picks up on Niall's words, and she takes another look at that fire and the distance that she has to cross to get closer to help. And what she is going to do is she is going to pull up her slab, and she wants to try to make a determination. She's going to ask Niall for whatever code is necessary. The electronics in the room itself are fried, but she wants to use her ability to like patch into networks if she can, to determine if that room itself is oxygenated, if that fire suppression system that just wipes it all out can be activated without
Okay.
knocking that person out.
Before anything, I need you to make a leadership roll because she's pretty suspicious of you.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Lucira is 30 feet away, covered in fire.
Yeah. So as part of that, as she asks for it, she's just, I need in. I can help stop it. And her leadership, I think, is terrible.
That's my memory.
Leadership is 1.
So 10 total.
Yes.
She says, you just need access?
I need to know if there's oxygen in that room. And as soon as she starts speaking this time, it's almost obvious that she's dissociating again because she says, Chief, if there's oxygen in that room, I can cut it everywhere else, but if she falls, it all goes up. And as she's saying this, she's like looking at Lucira in that room already, and Alejandri in that room already.
Man, this person is trained to see suspicious people and work out if it's because they're weirdos or because they're a problem. And you're lucky that she is good at that, because she kind of looks at you and says, all right, sure. And does the equivalent of like airdropping you into their system on your smart slab. So you have access, but it takes her your turn to basically do it.
Yeah.
And her turn.
Makes sense.
Like was on her smart slab anyway. All right, kid, back to the top. What would you like?
Sorry, still just recovering. Is it very apparent that Lucira isn't burning alive right now?
No, I will say that to all of you, it does look like Lucira is taking more damage than Alejandri is from it. Alejandri is made of crystal. His clothes are not, which is awkward, and his are just clothes.
Well, I guess Kid's just gonna shoot the next one at this point.
Make me a ranged attack roll for this one. A ranged skill roll, rather. Never put anything into places that is easily findable when I need it.
$28.
Yep, you effortlessly level it, and as Lucira is sprinting forward, you hit the... Yes?
I would not be able to do that this turn.
You can't shoot.
I have to load.
No, so the way that loading works... I will double check, because I wrote this forever ago. The way that loading works is you get one for free. I wrote it weirdly. Yes, you're right. Yeah, so you pull it up, and you realize before you pull the trigger that you have to put a shell into it. Or a bullet. I will revisit that, because that's not how it's meant to work.
I mean, if you want to change it now...
I'll change it now, because because also, it's not very good. The intention of how it was meant to be worded in a document that I wrote a long time ago is that your first attack is free every turn, as if you're reloading in between turns, and then to do multiple attacks with that gun, you need to use an attack to reload each time. So
Gotcha.
That's why those guns are better. They're usable for every class, but they're much less effective, weirdly, for a sharpshooter until you have like a way to do a bonus action thing. So yes, you can shoot now.
Okay, so 28.
Yeah, you hit it, and it just puts blue slime all over the floor as Lucira charges forward and makes me an escape roll.
Hey. 15.
15. The fire like licks at you. You can feel a vague heat. You feel like you're running through the fire. You don't feel like you avoided it, but it's not hurting you.
All right, I will shout back, saying, I'm also not gonna. No one's in my apartment besides me, but I'm not gonna shout because I don't want to hurt your ears. I will. Can I see the person still who's holding the machine together with their mind?
You
like, is
couldn't
that
see
kind
them
of like
before because your perception's terrible, and even now you can't
Oh,
see
right.
them. Like, there's a lot of raining goo in front of your face at the moment, unfortunately.
All right, then I'm just gonna shout back at Nyx and be like, Nyx, get into this get into this machine, or the I'm bad at technology words. Lucira would know what I'm trying to say, but like
There's network.
network. Thank you, brain. Like, get into this network, Nyx. I need you. And we'll just keep
Sure.
charging forward. And is very surprised that she's not on fire.
Alejandro continues after you, taking some damage. I guess he could technically roll a good escape roll. Nope.
Just for clarity's sake, is that Lucira doing her battle command sort of thing?
My direct
Or is
order.
that just yeah.
If I can, if I can still do my movement like as normal, and then just use my action to do that, sure. I'll use my direct order ability.
Yeah, because
Jeff will allow
the
that.
fire's not hurting you at this point, so you're not as worried about the difficult terrain, so you're just charging through it. So yeah.
Yeah, so you may spend a point and use an action.
And drop condition, right?
Yes.
And you lose a condition. Yep.
Okay. But it would be spending a PowerPoint.
No, it's a point of condition.
You may spend one. Yeah.
Oh no,
you spend a PowerPoint.
Yeah, you can spend a PowerPoint to do an action and lose one condition.
Okay. Oh. Because in that case, she's only got one PowerPoint. She kind of wants to do it to try to make sure that they survive. So I think the command washes over her.
Hey,
what?
I don't want to prompt you about your class's whole deal of generating PowerPoints.
Oh no, you should, because I forgot about that.
It's literally what your class does is sacrifice hit points for.
Wait, Nyx is an expert, though. What do you mean?
Yeah, right? No, it's funny because I thought about this earlier, and I was like, oh yeah.
Why are you worried about PowerPoints? You can just make them.
Yes. So yeah, she does in fact immediately say, on it, Chief. And as she's doing that, she is trying to access using the codes and clearance that she's been given by Nile.
Yeah, you're in the network.
And
that doesn't take you in action.
Okay.
Just the codes get you in.
All right. She is basically determining the integrity of that room, if she can cut the oxygen so people can get to it.
Yeah, so you get into it, and you're basically looking at the suppression systems, but the suppression systems are all kinds of like distorted, as if there's a code that is maliciously forcing them to not be usable and to not give you information. So I'm going to need you to make me a computers roll, and this is very hard to start and will progressively get easier the more time you take at it.
It's almost a kid, like more than anyone else, because she's been told that communication is important, or she heard kids shout communication, and so she just kind of like unconsciously mutters, there's someone else here, and a 29.
Yep.
Or a 27 if it's Dex.
It is Dex.
Yeah.
It
So
is
27
Dex,
then.
and therefore no. Unfortunately, you see what has been done, but because you're trying to do it as quickly as you possibly can, there's just a couple of keystrokes that you're like a little bit off on, and there's a command that you put in something that you think will work and it doesn't, because you're basically writing code on the fly against something that you don't know the origin of, and you don't even know like how it was written. But you can feel that you're very close, and because you're very close, I will tell you. No, you don't like knowing the DC for things, so I won't tell you.
No, that's fine.
And
also, that was a 19, so.
Yep.
That flat roll was a 19, so yeah, there is.
I told you it was hard and gets easier. You would have passed it if you had rolled with it, but you weren't.
Yep.
Thank you for being honest about it, but not knowing your own class abilities.
Yeah.
3FL.
You know, I'm here.
What would you like?
3FL dash 8. Huh?
What would you like to do?
First, some free speaking actions. 3FL-A2 points at Nyx. Are you planning on going into the fire?
Nyx just says, whatever's most efficient. That's not efficient right now. They might die, and goes back to their slab. Like,
as soon as Nyx gave a effective no, 3FL-A2 points at Kid and goes, "Are you planning on going into the fire?"
Kid has kept their eye on their scope, and will just say loud enough to hear, if anyone else goes through this fucking door, I'm going to kneecap them.
3FL nods, and then turns to Niall.
They're already
and
shaking
not-
their head. Like, they're not going through the door either.
Niall is not, or 3FL-2 is not asking a question of Niall. They are making a statement. You're hurt.
That's definitely the case, yes. But surely your time could be better used elsewhere. Shouldn't you check on your friend that is burning out there?
I think Lucira is fine right now. If I did my job appropriately.
It's like the most suspicious face. It's just a face because there's got a big helmet on. But it's a suspicious face looking at you.
And 3FL will offer Niall a healing stab.
Yeah, sure. I mean, she'll let you stab her with basically anything while she's watching what's happening. You look like you know what you're doing with these stims. Alright. Nyx, turn 2.
So Nyx is going to try once more to counter.
Sure, just make another computer's roll.
Nope.
Yeah, so you found the flaw that you did, but it's taking you some time to get it back around. Lucira's order is like ringing in your ears, and it's making you move faster than you potentially would, but you're not used to having 2 fingers back on your left hand, and they are moving faster than that hand is capable of moving most of the time. So it's just a little bit awkward for you. But you do, again, surmise another avenue that you could take to try and deal with this. We wrap back around to the top to Kid. You see, you can make a perception check because you're kind of looking in Lucira's direction anyway.
$22.
So you can see Alejandri and Lucira. Alejandri, while moving as quickly as he is capable of now, is kind of falling behind a bit, but his clothes have like not sparks, but like embers where they are burning, like his clothes are burning away. Lucira's clothes and hair has no such damage yet. Like, Lucira looks essentially pristine in this moment, but is running towards section 6.
You said that the way that these activate is like one turn. They activate for one turn and then continue for the next turn, and then they're off.
Yeah, so you can
Okay.
see the fire coming back at section 2 now. At the start.
Okay. I don't know if we ever established this firmly. Do we have like comm links? Are we that official?
No, you haven't bought those, and you are welcome
Okay.
to at any point just buy a set of like earpieces so that you can all talk all the time. But normally you message each other, and if you do touch a smart slab in here, it might, well, in the center, it might burn your fingers off.
This is like, what a day. Kid is going to shoot section 6.
This day started, make an attack roll, but this day started with you finding 3FL under a rock, and is ending with an like a planet-shattering bomb potentially going off.
What a day.
Andrew
Started with a
gets back
camping
to
trip.
Play the next session is just like, so here's
Only
your
a
crew.
13.
A 13, this is like the edge of the range that a 13 will still succeed, but it does just pop the edge of this sprinkler and just start to spray stuff down as Lucira, I assume, continues just charging forward.
Yeah, she will take the time to say, whatever. Would I have known that it was 3FL that stabbed me with something before I got going?
Yeah, I think that the only person likely to stab you with something in the history of this party is 3FL. You stabbed
I would've
Alice
shouted-
once?
I would shout back as I'm continuing to run. 3FL gave me something. I'm fine. Let's get this done.
Alright. Yeah, make an escape roll. Still with advantage. You had advantage on the last one as well.
Oh shit! I
So,
forgot to do that.
Reroll the last one and I will adjust if you roll better.
Just to reiterate,
Okay.
we don't know how long this is lasting, right?
Not a natural one, so no, my one that I had last time is fine.
No idea. You don't know how long that wall's gonna hold. You don't know if there's oxygen in there. You don't know, really, if that person is about to be dead.
18.
With no modifier?
Yep.
Okay, 18 succeeds. So you take half. This is a gross thing that I've done to myself. 15 down to 7 down to
3.
3. You take 3 damage. Not that you're meant to be aware of the damage you're taking.
My shields take it.
So next up, I think Alejandro's having a pretty fucking shit day, and has realized that somebody is outpacing him by quite a long distance, and that he's going to get stuck in this room. So he turns back and moves back to section 1, which, of course, he fails. He got very lucky because I rolled very nicely, but also he is resistant to fire. So, like, he's charging back towards you because he just can't make it and doesn't want to be stuck in the middle of the room. Niall kind of looks over at what you're doing, Nix, and says, you know, and points out a piece of code that you have mistyped to give you advantage on your next roll. And then it is 3FL's turn again.
Another stem that we had talked about that I don't think we'd ironed out any details for is one that grants extra movement.
I remember.
Okay.
Yep.
So I think 3FL-A2 had like started getting that prepped for Alejandri, seeing how slowly he was moving, sees that he's turning around, and will instead once again levy that at Lucira.
Make me a ranged weapon skill roll.
Cool beans.
How
A thing
how many?
I'm definitely good at.
Seems you got, girl.
The prototype ones, we kind of work out that they have been made, and then we take it off after, because prototype ones are like, I want to encourage 3FL and Kristen to use prototypes. Is the answer to that question.
Do I get to...
This will be introduced.
Okay, oh, thank God.
Yeah, you have a better version of it because it like is essentially a smart weapon, I think is the word, or a precision weapon. Maddie, what's your AC?
My AC 17.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, you shoot a stim into the fire, and it does hit like the edge of Lucira's coat, but unfortunately, it doesn't find purchase on skin. Because really, you're not used to firing. Also, what does this look like? I think this might be the first time you've shot a stim.
So the way that this works is 3FL actually has like a little it's not a separate physical thing that they have on them. Actually, what they have is a little like circle in their palm that like was put in there like as part of their design for when they needed to like shoot fertilizer into the soil. So they're able to load that into like a little slot in their arm, and it's like a very dramatic superhero L from Stranger Things, like hand push forward.
and it's like just trajectory is wrong. Like you don't do this stuff ever, and you're just like, well, I miscalculated. I think you could theoretically use the iteration thing on that if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could. I don't know what that will actually.
We'll probably because we are running a little short on time. Just say you have advantage if you want to do it again.
Okay.
So
I feel that will be important.
Yeah. Yeah. You just like figured out trajectory better. Nyx.
How close is Lucira? What zone is she in now? Is she
6.
visible? 6. All right. Yeah, Nyx is she like looks at Niall, like just a quick glance at the corner of her eye, and then tries one more time.
Right. So with advantage.
With advantage this time. Yes. Let's see. Okay, let me try that again. It just like sort of fizzled out on the roller.
It's just like no thanks.
It's not showing. Well, yeah, it's not showing anything real quick. Hold on. Maybe I'm not getting to type. Maybe my typing's not working elsewhere. Yeah. Okay, that's great. One sec. There we go. My keyboard just decided it was no longer connected.
Nyx is just typing away and it's doing nothing. Like
Yeah,
just the Bluetooth
like,
on your keyboard
literally-
is just going like away. Nyx has a
Alright.
wrist keyboard and the Bluetooth just died.
Yeah, she fucking another 18 and then a 1. So the
Well-
the advantage did not help, but it rolled 3 times after it finally decided to pay attention.
Okay. No, one of them is yes, you have advantage next
Kristen's.
time, Kristen. Yeah, you get in and you can see now as you break through the first layer of code affecting this. That room does still have oxygen in it and is still a separate containment zone. If the walls had been breached, this system would read that already and be like, this is one zone. So currently, that person, if you activate the suppression system, will be fine beyond the other stuff that they have going on in their life. However, as you're looking around to see if you can activate the suppression system, all of the actual functionality of the suppression system is still hidden behind like distortions and disruptive code. And it's going to take you more time to break through that. But Lucira might burn to death before then. You don't know.
Right. Nyx calls out, she's got oxygen, and to Lucira specifically, she shouts, get there, and it's, like she's not stuttering, but it's, you don't require understanding to know that she is absolutely going to wipe out the oxygen in that room with you in it if you don't get there.
Unfortunately, Lucira, I'm going to need you to make a perception check to hear over the roaring flames of the room you're in.
Nice one.
I really didn't think it was going to be Lucira running into
So
this
brutal.
room.
Hey, but hey,
Yeah.
it's an 18.
You hear Nyx's voice basically telling you, if you don't make it, I'm going to kill you.
Just keep going. She starts moving
Alright.
faster.
Kid, are you shooting at section 8?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to move through quicker now. Lucira, first, Kid, make your attack roll.
$13 again.
This one dings off the ceiling. Lucira, make me an escape roll with normal, not disadvantage. Alright. You take that. What did you say your shield? What's your max shields?
11, but I'm currently at 6.
No, we have to. You're at 6. Did you get hit before in the other fight? Or 6 from
No,
this?
but I've taken damage each time. Yeah, I don't think you ever told me what the damage was from the second hit.
Take the 6 off because I'm taking it off a different thing. Because part of this stim is that you don't know, you can't feel fire anymore.
Oh, okay. So my shields are 11 and my HP is 24.
Alright, I'll factor that in, and then 24. Sure. All right. You just keep running. Now you're running through full fire. You don't feel anything. Alejandri makes it back and kind of crouches down so Kid can get a shot on everything, but is holding the door to close it as soon as Lucira gets into the maintenance tunnel. Niall can't help you anymore because this is far beyond her capability with computers. 3FL.
Taking the same stem shot.
Sure.
I think I did the notation for that right. 20.
Oh, you just crit?
Yeah, I just crit.
Well, Lucira, you do heal a little bit. Oh, well, you don't because it hasn't broken through it to your health yet. But that burst is enough that you can tell, Lucira, as your legs feel lighter. Roll me a d20 actually first, please, Maddie, because there is a side effect.
Is this going to be a major or minor one?
This one's a minor one.
Okay.
14.
Disadvantage on willpower skill checks until the end of the next turn.
I was one away from escape.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's not going to have any impact. You run forward. 3FL. Nyx, you are into the second level of code breaking.
Okay. As Nyx is observing this system, she's panicked and frantic, but she's also, this is a familiar situation to her, and so she is kind of aware that sometimes it's worth slowing down and seeing what can be done. Is there anything that she notices about the system, the way it's functioning? Is there anything familiar, or something does she recognize? Because different people, different groups have sort of, signatures to the way they write things. She's seen a lot of
Yeah.
hacking in the academy.
You are not as familiar with the very, very, very high level security features of Imperial outposts, but it's a good question, and I will tell you that you do notice that in the next level of code, there's like a false, basically a false victory condition where it's like, oh, make the hacker think that they got in, but then the button still, like, the button, if they push it, will blow up the generator, basically. And because you took the time to do it, to, like, think about it, you notice that that is a possibility, and therefore you will not fall for it. But otherwise you might have fallen for it. I was very excited.
Yeah.
I was like, this will be really fun.
Nyx, occasionally learns lessons.
That sounds fake.
But she has a sense also that... Go ahead.
You can make the computer check for this turn with disadvantage because you took the time.
Yeah, of course. With that, she has a sense like that's something that can only be done like from somebody's lab, etc. There's not like a button like that somebody else is going to hit once they get in that room that would disable anything, like, because she knows Lucira's trying to get into that room, and that Lucira's focus won't be 100% on holding that thing together, which is why maybe that other person, does she think there's a physical interface?
Lucira's trying to get into a different room.
Okay.
Lucira's going for the maintenance tunnel to turn off the suppression stuff.
Okay. So yeah. In that case, let's see.
Yeah, as you expected, probably. Like, you've just started hacking. It doesn't, like, you can't make any headway. Back to Kid. Are you shooting for the final suppression system?
Kid, having almost missed the previous shot, and then having missed the next shot, quickly scans in front of them for a stable surface and moves up slightly, crouches, and rests the barrel on Alejandro.
Alejandro doesn't have eyes to roll anymore, but there is that moment of the camera watching Alejandro clearly like, well, that's not okay, but you can have advantage because it works. Just grabs you and throws you into the fire.
That's a 29.
Yeah, that hits. Lucira, as you're about to breach the last zone, you see the ceiling open with this flood of blue slime. I need you to make me one more escape check, and because of the boost of speed that you're getting from 3FL, you can also make it to the door, and I need you to make me a fortitude check, because that door is basically on fire.
Okay, so my escape check is still flat?
Oh no, with advantage now, because the
Okay.
suppression system went off. The fortitude one will be flat.
Okay, so 18 for the escape, and then what's the secondary check?
Fortitude.
With disadvantage?
No, just flat.
Just flat, okay. Fortitude. -2.
I don't know
Awesome.
why I did this half nonsense to myself.
Natural 2 for a 0.
For a 0. Right. I have to change die size for this one.
Is it fortitude or escape that's based off of strength?
It's fortitude, so you should have advantage because of the thing.
Oh!
Kristen coming in clutch. I was
You
like,
also made me
watching your
forget
face,
what I
and I felt
rolled.
like
Which is annoying, because I hadn't written that yet.
A 12 instead.
It still fails. But,
Better than
good
0.
looking out. All right. So you're taking half of that.
I don't like not knowing how much damage I've taken.
Prototype stims. That's a problem. All right.
Now I understand how
You're-
Andrew feels.
You're not unconscious, which is the important thing. As you make it, you burst into this maintenance tunnel, and at the end of it, it's only like 15 feet down. It's still very hot in here, but as you close the door behind you, now unencumbered by the fire, you can just sprint forward, and in front of you there are 2 buttons. They are both in languages that you don't speak. And as you look at them, your universal translator pops up and it's like, this one says suppression system room A, and this one says room B, and then underneath it says server room and generator room.
Oh boy.
I mean, it just tells you which rooms it is. I didn't explain that
Yeah.
very well, but your universal translator covered all of it, and you just have to push the one on the
Yeah.
left. Just,
Okay, great.
I was like, this isn't a game puzzle thing. It's just like, I like the idea that you can't read it, and you have to hope that your universal translator still going.
The cosmic karma of just like, I'm going to run dead sprint into this room and almost kill myself. I made it. Hits the wrong button.
You smash your hand into the correct button. The outside, there's this really loud, visceral hissing sound as vents that were open before but not doing anything begin to pull all of the oxygen out of the main room. Alejandri slams the door closed, not really caring if you get your rifle out of the way, but I think you do.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care. I'll smash that rifle. And Nix, you can see on the smart slab that now everybody else is crowding around. The status of that room changing. And it's like oxygen level at 100% to begin with, which is not real, but it changes slowly. It changes agonizingly slowly when you can still feel the psionic scream of a person 2 rooms away from you. It's dropped to 80%, but it's so slow as seconds turn to minutes. And you know where that scream is coming from. You can...
Are we?
Go ahead.
No, sorry. There was like a dodgy delay, so I wasn't sure if you were going, and then I heard you again. So
we're not in initiative because the only person that could do anything in this situation is you. So what would you like to do?
all right. So the system is still relatively inaccessible at the 2nd level.
Yes, you also nothing in that system is going to fix this.
Right,
issue.
like it's a physical problem. It can't be fixed through any sort of siphoning off the energy, etc.
You know, as an engineering student, that quantum generators are not designed to be turned off.
Okay. Nyx is so she can use a PowerPoint to help, but she can also spend her health as PowerPoints. Is there a limit to how it says no limits? Could she just do that as much as necessary in the moment?
Yes. But
Okay.
in the moment, you have to decide how many PowerPoints to spend, and then you roll.
Got it.
You're making the decision pre-rolling. You can't just go, oh, I roll for 1, and then I'll keep going, and then I keep going. You're like,
right.
You action the ability, and then you roll.
Mm-hmm. All right. And she has a sense that, she can still reach this person without line of sight.
Yes.
All right, and it's a d6 per each point I take, and then I take that damage flat out.
Yep. Because you don't have the ability that fixes that yet. But
all right. So in that case, Nyx is going to just shake her head. This isn't fast enough, she is going to turn to Chamomile, and she is going to just say, sorry about this. And you watch as she shuts her eyes, and let's see, where is this at? All right, so there's no limit to how many power points I can spend on helping.
Yeah, you can say any amount of power points. Like, you could say 100 power points, and you would
Right.
do it with that, but it would full kill you, as I think you're aware.
Obviously. Yes.
But also, you need to tell me the amount before you roll. And
I know.
also, Kristen, go ahead while Charlie is thinking about it.
When Nyx is taking this damage, is it obvious that they're taking damage?
Depends on how much damage. If it was like 3 damage, probably not. But if it's like 40 damage, their eyes will be bleeding.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
If it's like 100 damage, you'll know that they just died.
I
So-
would like to prepare an action.
Yeah, you can work it out, depending on how many. But yes, you can prepare an action.
All right, and then final question there. Those power points, because it's a very intangible thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Nyx's mind, does she have a sense of, like, a remote sense of what she's going to be trying to accomplish with this? Like,
because you are not super aware of the situation, I'm going to use your role as to get you there and give you enough time to action a thing, and then the role is relevant to like how well you can action that. So you will, when you're there, get to like know what's roughly going on, and then how many power points you spend is how strong you are in that psionic moment to do the thing that you want to do.
okay.
But Nyx right now
alright.
can't know that.
All right, that's fair. Then in the event that Nyx doesn't know, she has no idea of what she's trying to accomplish, and she also doesn't know, like, she's used to the nanites trying to stop her. When she closes her eyes, she is once more directly entreating the nanites, and she is going to say, every single one of you, if you don't help, we all die now. And she's going to say, they'll take care of you. And she looks right at Chamomile, who she still doesn't realize is currently 3FL, and she's going to say, they'll take care of you no matter what happens to me. And let's go ahead and get around 10 points of power points out of this. So
Sure.
that's going to be 96.
They don't care that Chamomile will take care of them. Their directive is to protect you, and you're trying to give away so much of your body to do a thing that they don't understand.
Yeah, okay, so in the case that they don't understand,
you can tell they don't understand. They're like swarming
Okay.
around, clearly like agitated. I'm like, well, but no, you're clearly about to hurt yourself. We can tell we're in your head.
Nyx just imagines, I'm sure she has had this in her head for a long time, of what happens to a planet whose systems fail so abruptly. Like, that's the response she sends. She doesn't try again to entreat them, beyond just, like, that image of, I will be dead regardless, you dumb bots.
Alright. Do the thing. I will tell you what happens as you roll the dice, because they could still stop you.
Yeah, that's fair. Alright. Well, I'll hit enter 3 times, and then I'll just roll the 96. Alright.
Alright.
While these rolls are happening, if 3FL sees Nyx go down, or start bleeding from their eyes, then I am going to administer as many healing stems as I have, and that's 3.
Alright, my first question is that your exact health total? 32?
Yeah, it is.
That's very funny.
Does
How
it
many
count?
fives?
Wait. Do shields count?
No, they do at level 4. Like, that's part
Oh,
of the
God,
empowered
yeah.
leveling up thing. Alright,
Then yes.
so, what happens is this. Nyx's body goes stiff. There's no immediate burst of, like, trauma that you notice, 3FL, as Nyx, you fling yourself 150 feet through a door, and you find yourself in this room. The room itself is warm even in this psionic space, and you see a small figure, smaller even than you, with arms outstretched, holding these 2 pieces of metal that are meant to be joined together, but they simply don't have the strength to pull them back together and interconnect them. It's a procedure that you have done on inactive machines literally thousands upon thousands of times in your life, and it just takes the strength to pull them together. As you're doing this, you don't have to make a roll. You've spent enough points that this will work if you're still in the psionic space by the time it finishes. As you're doing that, 3FL, you're watching, and you see veins begin to bulge. Nyx isn't showing a lot of skin really, but on their hands, their good hand, and their face, and their frill, veins begin to bulge. And they bulge further than veins should, as they begin to pop, as if a seam across all of Nyx has been ripped apart. Nyx is still standing. That you beseeched the nanites and they gave you 1 point to stay standing. But you could administer a stim now. They look to be in immense physical trauma. You could administer a stim.
Yeah, I'm going to hit. I have enough for 3 healing stems, so that'll be 6d4 of healing.
Alright, I'm gonna need Nyx and Chamomile to both roll quickness, because a stim can bring you out of this psionic space. And you're both terrible at it, so it's very funny. Alright. You're administering the stims. Nyx, you're kind of joining your psychic energy with the smaller person, and you're pulling them together. As you feel in your physical form, you felt the burst, you expected the burst, you don't expect these tiny pinpricks that are just distracting you at the edge of your consciousness. And I'm going to get you to roll me... I'll do it this way, actually. You can roll a willpower check, or you can elect that you pass the willpower check, and there will be other consequences.
I don't think Nyx has the option to roll a willpower check. I think that Nyx fully committed to this from the start of it.
Okay.
She's been here before, and knowing the consequences before didn't stop her. She's gonna throw everything into that small person.
And as we see psionic perfect Nyx bringing these 2 cables, huge cables, bristling with energy enough to destroy a planet, pulled back together, the screen cuts in half, and we see a much younger Nyx, not even much younger, but much younger looking, thrusting their arm into a machine to create an electrical circuit to allow people to keep living in a medical facility. And the screen cuts a 3rd time as we see the 3 stims as 3FL shoves them into Nyx's body. and the nanites tightening the skin around the stims and snapping them to stop them waking Nyx up. As they snap, Nyx, you feel your consciousness start to fade and to fail as you snap the cables together, and then you are unconscious, and I need you to make me a death save. Death saves are not common in this game.
Still... Right. Is she still physically upright as she makes this death save?
Yeah, sure, because I like that cinematically. Death saves are not very common in this game. You have 3 failed lifetime of your character.
Nice.
Because they're so rare. Like, you're not going to do them in normal combat. They're like, that's a success.
Still the usual.
Yeah, you succeed. But you are unconscious. 3FL, you feel the stims snap as you try and put them into Nyx's body. But as Nyx falls, you're close enough that you can kind of cradle them on the way down, and their breath, while labored, and they're covered in blood. What color is Nyx's blood? This is an important question that should have come up earlier.
Nyx's blood is a sort of deeper, not quite navy sort of color, but the thing that makes it like a little bit odd is more like the viscosity. It's a little too thick, which is not a racial trait. There's something.
It's like jelly.
It's a little jellied.
It's clotting too quickly because of the nanites.
Yeah.
I get it. But as you fall, you can tell that they are stable. They're not at risk of dying anytime soon. And all of the lights that were kind of flickering, have solidified. And with the quantum generator fixed, the oxygen begins to flood out of that room. And it fixes it very quickly. And that is where we will leave our main cast for a moment, as we see Valis now later in the day.
Wait. But we got cutscenes of everybody else. What happened to the person in the generator room?
You don't know. You'll meet them next session. If they're alive, they might have given everything as well, right? We cut to Valis, not on guard duty anymore, and not quite in the pirate outfit that he had been in. And he's back in the familiar corridor. This time, to his left, a man in black, familiar. Shaved head, tall, not wearing a lab coat as a doctor in this particular instance, but holding a rifle that probably rivals kids. Or certainly did before the blast radius attack before. And as they approach a door where from the other side, we can hear as an audience screaming, ear-piercing screaming of a feminine voice. And as they approach the door is kicked open by the woman in white, who is carrying what seems to be part of a limb of one of the taller pirates. And that's where we will end this session. I hope everyone can join us again for the next couple of weeks. Although next week I think we're not playing because someone can't make it, if I remember correctly. Maddie.
I'm on a plane.
Yes, we will do something. We might do the fallout from this as a shorter session for everybody else and then pick up the Maddie stuff after.
It's fine. I can just be stuck in the maintenance room for a while.
Well, I think you have to debrief with your superior officer.
Also that.
Largely about the people you're traveling with, because one of them just exploded into jelly. But thank you all for playing. I hope you enjoyed it. It really did feel like a mid-season finale, I think. It was a nice, interesting for me, and to see how people dealt with different things. And I'm really excited to see what happens going forward. All right. Bye, everyone. I have to click this. I can't be waving. All of you have to carry the waving.